Ayan. Ayan. So, good morning everyone. So, we're live. Ayan. So, kamusta po ang lahat? Ayan po. So, konting paalala lang po, kung sa mga bago pa lang po nating viewers or participants for today, sa mga nagtatanong kung may registration pa po ba. So, no pre-registration po tayo and or no registration po or no credit card required. Ang importante lang po is at the end, makapag-submit kayo nung ire-require naming output. Ayan po. So, yun lang po ang aming requirement. Ayan po. To get your e-certificate from us. Ayan. So, sino na po ba ang excited? Ayan po. So, good morning po. Siguro, konting shoutout lang. So, konting relax lang muna tayo before we start. And today, makasama natin si Sir Dennis. Ayan, to moderate this free webinar for you. Ayan, so, feel free to comment your thoughts and ideas sa ating live chat. Ayan po. So, napakaganda ng ating topic for today. Ayan, So, napakalaki din ng ating screen dyan sa YouTube na this webinar is for free and free din po ang ating e-certificate. Just a little reminder, just in case you encountered a website asking for a credit card. So, hindi po sa amin yon. Pangunahan ko na po kayo. And, ignore nyo na lang po yon. Do not enter your information. Ayan. So, as internet safety advocate, so, wag tayong magpabiktima sa mga ganun. Ano po? Ayan. So, alam naman na nung mga EryoTech participants natin yan. Okay? Pero sa mga bago po, no, this just a reminder. Okay? So, ang official URL natin po is www.youtube.com/EryoTech. So, sa Facebook naman, www.facebook.com/EryoTech. Ayan po. Shoutouts natin siguro, no, I don't think, hindi naman, tawag dito, maubos oras natin dito. So, shout out po sa to all Jaro NHS teachers. Ayan. Na nag-aabang daw for this webinar. Ayan. So, I think magugustuhan nyo tong webinar na to kasi talagang may matututunan po kayo dong something new. Ayan. So, talagang mga innovation in teaching, no? Ayan. Sir Dennis, nandiyan ka na po ba? Ayan, so wala pa yata Sir Dennis. So okay lang po yan. Ayan, sino na po ba ang excited? Ayan. So tingnan ko nga sa ating live chat kung sino yung mga excited na po, no? Ayan. Si Ma'am Nessie, sekretaryo, so excited daw. Ayan po. So may mga pa-shoutouts kayo. I-chat nyo lang po sa aming live chat and I will try my best and Sir Dennis to keep note and shout out. So sana po wag magtampo if ever na hindi namin nabasa kasi medyo madami din yung mga comments ninyo. And please do share this live stream sa inyong Facebook, sa inyong timeline. Make sure i-public para lahat kita, no, na parang something you are proud na uma-attend kayo sa amin, no? And pangako naman namin na hindi kayo magsisisi kasi may mga matututunan naman talaga kayo dito. Ano po? Ayan po. Ayan. Nandiyan na yata si Sir Dennis. Ayan. So, wala pa siya. Oh. Okay. Sige. Teka lang basahin pa natin. Medyo madami kayo mga nagpa-good morning, no? So, maraming salamat, no? Sa pagtutok, lalo na yung iba, excited na, mga 8:30 or 8 pa lang yata nakasubscribe na. Naghihintay na ng live natin. Ano po? Hmm, ayan. So, good morning po sa inyong lahat, lalong-lalo na yung mga nasa school. Nasa school pa rin hanggang ngayon. Ayan. So, sa DepEd may headline tayo nung kahapon or nung nakaraan, no? Na October 25 daw ang magiging pasukan. Ayan. So, medyo mahaba-haba pa ang ating magiging preparation. So, okay naman. Ayan. So, good morning din, Ma'am Mary Alcagno from Masbate. Ayan. So, Sir Reynaldo Cabal, wala po tayong registration. Ayan po. So, at the end of this webinar, you just need to submit your output. Ayan. And later, i-demonstrate namin kung saan i-upload, ano po yung i-upload, at paano makukuha yung e-certificate. Ayan. So, usually dito sa amin, pinadali na namin, no? As long as you can submit your output, ayan po. As long as you can submit your output, then wala naman pong problema doon. Ayan po. Ayan. So, ready na po ba tayo? Ayan, ready na po ba tayong makinig and sumunod din sa mga may pa-hands-on kasi tayo dito. As you know, di ba, mas maganda nga daw pag learning by doing, no? Ayan. So, yung iba, mas sanay habang live is sumusunod din sila, no? Dun sa nag-lecture sa atin, sa nagde-demonstrate. Ano po? Ayan. So, pero for those na hindi naman pa kayang sumunod, don't worry kasi po, this live webinar is recorded and you may follow later. Ano po? Or apply the learnings later. So, ayun po. Pwede po kayong manood lang muna and then later saka nyo siya gawin and then later saka nyo po siya isubmit sa amin. Ano po? So, wala pong problema yon. Okay? So, yung sa amin kasi, yung deadline, mahaba-haba naman yung deadline namin. Ayan. Ayan. So, shout out sa iyo, Ma'am Jemeline Borromeo. Ready to listen na daw. Ayan. Shout out kay Sir Wanderer, no? So, shout out daw si Brother Andrew Gonzalez ng Technical High School. Sorry. Brother Andrew from Gonzalez Technical High School. Ayan. Sige. So, siguro medyo may problema lang sa line ni Sir Denny. So, okay lang ba kung ako lang muna? Ayan. Sige. So, I think we need to start. So, start ko lang yung ating presentation here. So, discuss ko lang yung mga konting pa-reminders natin and konting mga announcement. Ano po? Ayan. So, ayan, first of all, hingi lang kami ng konting pabor sa inyo. Kindly like this video. Kung lalo na yung mga excited.
Check pa close door.
Ayan. Opo.
Close na. Okay na po. Thanks.
Ayan. So, paki-like lang po yung ating live Facebook, live YouTube live stream and yung ating Facebook page. And of course, do not forget to subscribe on this YouTube channel kasi ito yung official natin. And damay niyo na rin po yung bell para po may mga notification kayo matatanggap whenever meron kaming ikakandak na mga free webinars. Paano po? And please do live party, watch party. Paano po ba yun? Just kindly share this YouTube video to your Facebook timeline, to your any social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Ayan, kung makagawa ka pa ng TikTok while watching, no? And please, use the hashtag Team Ariotech. So, we are a team here. So, yun yung hashtag natin. And, ayun po, nood lang muna, enjoy, and relax. Okay? So, wag sana tayo ma-stress pagka hindi gaano nasusundan kasi recorded ang video. So, nothing to worry kasi pwede mo siyang balik-balikan, pwede mo siyang i-replay. So, lalong-lalo na sa mga other participants na hindi makanood ng live, you may watch this on our YouTube and i-replay nyo lang. Ano po? Pero mas maganda kung mapanood nyo siya ng live. Kasi ika nga sabi nila, di ba, pag fresh na fresh, mas maganda. Okay. Mas madali maintindihan, no, kapag live talaga. Yung iba, ganun yung learning style. So, depende po sa atin. Ano po? So, next natin. So, here at Eriotech, we are also in favor in saying no to plastic straw. So, medyo may pagka-konting environmentalist kami. So, ito lang yung konti na contribute, no, so sa ating environment and sa ating society to spread the word na hangga't maaari po ay eliminate na or reduce na po yung ating paggamit no single use, which is yung plastic straw, no. Ayan. So sana maging kaisa rin namin kayo dito because this is also part of our advocacy. Ano po? So next thing is, ayan, please kindly join our advocacy campaign by using the hashtag Say No to Plastic Straw. So sana po makita ko yung mga hashtag na ito sa ating live chat. Ano po? Ayan. Ayan. For those na medyo lumalabo ang inyong live streaming, kindly switch your YouTube settings, yung parang gear icon dyan sa right, left, lower part. Ayan, so search, iyan nyo lang yung streaming settings niya. Make sure naka 720 ano siya, P or pixel. Ayan po. Ayan, so let us all protect our home. We are all in this together kasi kung kami lang, hindi namin kaya. So, humingi kami ng tulong na sana kahit papaano ma-reduce yung plastic straw. Kasi did you know, an average time ng paggamit ng plastic straw is 20 minutes lang and then later i-dispose na yun or itatapon na natin. Ang masama pa minsan, tinatapon lang natin kung saan-saan. Ano po? So, to contribute to our earth or to our home, ayan, meron lang tayong konting magagawa is to reduce na kung kayang hindi gumamit ng plastic straw, wag nang gamitin. Ano po? So we can also suggest here na instead of using the traditional plastic straw, so ang sinasuggest namin po yung yung paggamit na lang ng alternative, which is yung metal straw or reusable, mapa-bamboo, metal straw, okay po yun, walang problema as long as alternative siya, nare-reuse, yun yung importante, nare-reuse siya. Ayan. So, sir, saan ba nakakabili ng ganyan or saan ba nakakabili ng ganyan? So, to be honest, meron din kaming ganitong mga product na available sa aming Shopee shop. You may avail it by navigating this URL, this one, ito po, ayan. Ayan, si www.shopee.com/eriotech. Ayan, so maraming variation of colors yan, no? Mapa-pink, mapa-violet. So daming magagandang kulay, no? Kayo na lang po ang bumisita sa Shopee and meron niyang COD or cash on delivery feature, so pwede yan. And then kung gusto niyo ng mas faster transaction, you may reach us sa aming Facebook account. Ano po, no? So again, no, this is a suggestion. So hindi to sa pilitan. You may attend our webinar without availing this. So ang kagandahan kasi nito is dishwasher safe. Ayan, pwede sa mainit and made of stainless steel. And of course, it can contribute to protect our environment. Ano po? So napakaganda and dishwasher siya. Ayan po, no, meron siyang brush. Pwede nyo siyang linisin sa loob. Ayan, kahit naka-bend siya, magbe-bend din yung brush. Ano po? So, this one is our elegant silver, kung tawagin namin. Pero ang daming kulay nito, yung mga metallic collections, ceramic collections, so ang dami. So, napakaganda. So, this is an alternative in instead of using the traditional straw. Ito yung sinasuggest namin. Ano po? Pero again, no, hindi siya required to avail para umattend sa amin, and this is just an alternative. Inuulit-ulit po natin na po. So please kindly use the hashtag Say No to Plastic Straw. Ayan. So let me proceed na po. Ayan. So again, no, meron na tayong proceed na tayo sa ating discussion. So let me introduce again no, so nakakalungkot hindi makakasama si Ma'am Lisel, pero gumawa siya ng paraan para kahit papaano makasama siya sa ating um, uh, webinar for this morning. Ano po? Ayan. So actually gumawa siya ng recording para kahit papaano maka-contribute pa rin siya sa atin. Ano po, kahit na medyo may problem lang dun sa kanyang um, laptop. Ayan po. So please allow me to play the recording of Ma'am Lisel, our teammate sa ating Ariotech, to discuss or to introduce to you our subject matter expert or resource person kung tawagin. Ano po, no? Ayan. So, ayan. So, play ko lang po, no?
Our today's subject matter expert has been affiliated with Polytechnic University of the Philippines since 2009. She previously worked in this university as its placement officer for career development and placement services, a faculty member of College of Sciences, and the chief of PPO Center Special Programs and Projects Office. At present, she joins the faculty of the Department of Psychology and functions as the director of the Office of International Affairs in PUP. This 32-year-old professional nurse and master in psychology, major in clinical psychology, was certified as Six Sigma Yellow Belt and mental health first aid responder in 2019. For consecutive years, she also received various recognitions as a resource speaker, an evaluator, a committee head, contest coordinator and coach, as well as a service awardee and an outstanding faculty member. Ladies and gentlemen, to lecture us about innovative teaching techniques for online distance learning is no other than PhD candidate of philosophy major in educational psychology, a young and effective working educator, Miss Jonna Carla C. Bien. Let's give her welcoming virtual claps.
Ayan. So,
Our today's subject matter.
ayan. So, good morning, Ma'am Jonah.
Our
Ayan.
today's subject matter.
Ayan po, no? So, thank you din, Ma'am Lisel, for introducing Ma'am Jonah for us. Ayan po. So, excited na ba ang lahat? Ayan, so, I think kilalang-kilala nyo na rin si Ma'am Jonah, no? Kasi lumalabas na rin siya sa mga webinars, no? Online webinars, iba-iba pang mga provider, no? So, na-mention din, no? Na ang dami niyong mga achievements, no? Lalo-lalo na being a resource speaker, and we believe na talaga namang credible si Ma'am Jonah, no? And of course, he's also a candidate uh, for the Doctor of Philosophy major in Education Psychology. Ayan. So, ready na po ba ang lahat? Ayan. So, I want to see kung ready na ang lahat para po makapag-start na rin si Ma'am Jonah. Ayan. Siguro kamustahin ko si Ma'am Jonah. Ma'am Jonah, are you now with us?
Hi, good morning.
Ayan po. Ayan. Sige. Siguro i-on natin yung ating mga cam. Ayan po. So, let me, yan. Ayan po. Hello, Ma'am Jonah.
Hi, Sir
Hi
Ed.
po, kamusta? Ayan, Ma'am. So, I think, excited na yung ating mga viewers. Ayan. So, actually, siguro busy lang sila. Manonood yung iba ng replay. Ayan. So, dun sa mga live nating viewers, no, ayun po, again, reminder lang, pwedeng manood lang po muna and then later, tsaka natin i-apply yung learnings natin. And si Ma'am Jonah na po yung bahala sa inyo yan. Ayan. So, Ma'am Jonah, stop ko na yung aking presenting and you may now present your screen. Ayan po.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Tech, for this opportunity to be invited as one of your speakers. And I do hope that for today, all of our viewers would be able to learn about the innovative teaching techniques for online distance learning. And sa mga audience po natin, magandang umaga. Welcome po sa ating webinar. At nakakatuwa po na in spite of all the challenges that we are facing, lalo na po ngayong pandemya, alam ko po marami kayong iniisip, marami kayong mga pinagdaraanan, kumbaga, o yung iba, maraming mga limitasyon sa pagkilos. But this is a good point that we are all gathered here today to learn something new. And I hope I'll be able to share some of the things which could be useful as you do your teaching in your classes in the new normal. So before we begin, I would be requesting the audience to log in to www.menti.com and kindly use the code 4678111 and it will direct you to a certain question. Hindi naman po ito quiz. It will simply just ask you, how are you today? So I would just want to make it interactive para po meron tayong discussion or meron tayong connection even though we are doing this online. I could hear some of your responses, I could hear some of your answers, and I would just like to know how you feel. You just relax and be participative. Let's make this interactive like that I have mentioned. And let's just relax. Let's make it like something we are in the same environment, we are in the same classroom, for example, and we are really having our interaction. So kindly log in again to menti.com and use the code 4678111. And let's see what are your answers for today. Here, as you could see, I am seeing some responses. You ask yourselves, kamusta na ba ako? Okay pa naman ba? Humihinga pa naman? Maayos naman ang pagtulog ko? Masaya naman akong gumising ngayong araw? So let's try to take a look. Okay, that's good to see. Some of our respondents or some of our participants answered they're feeling great. Right, that's good. Others are just fine. And some are saying they're having a bad day. So we are still gathering responses. It's still increasing. Let's wait for others to respond. So as you could see, no, as we go along with the discussion, you could be having an idea na, this could be done when I start my online classes. We don't simply begin with, good morning class, our lesson for today is about this and about that. Naku, mateterify agad ang mga estudyante ninyo. Isipin din natin that our students maybe have some burdens along with them and they are just trying to condition themselves into working on and attending their classes. So I think it would be better if we begin on asking, how are you? Kagaya kanina ni Sir Ed, nagtatanong siya, kamusta na ba kayo? Pati ako, kinakamusta niya. So, that's one way of establishing rapport with your students. Siguro kung hindi lang sa estudyante, with other individuals you are interacting and dealing with. Okay? So, kung titignan ninyo, it's reflecting responses of the people you are talking with. So kahit hindi tayo magkasama, even though we are apart from each other, others could be in the far-flung provinces of the Philippines, your participation here would count. More or less, I could be having an idea about how are you feeling for today. Okay, so as we could see here, mostly are saying that they feel great. Wow, congratulations. Because I know this week could have been exhausting and could be very tiring, but you still manage to make it and have a great day for this morning. Others are just fine. Okay, that's great. And the rest, I hope for those who are having a bad day, whatever it is you are facing right now, you'll be able to battle with it and you'll be able to cope up with it because we could not really reject the fact that our life is filled with challenges. Okay? So thank you for responding. I do really appreciate your participation for this. Okay, ang dumadami na sila, nakakatuwa. And I think more participants will be joining later on. Siguro yung iba dahil Saturday, it's a good day na medyo mahaba ang tulog ko. medyo masaya ang pakiramdam ko. So, baka mamaya hahabol sila. Okay, maraming salamat po. Later on, we still have more activities that I'll be wishing for your participation with. So, for that, let's continue. By the way, please do not forget to like and share Area Tech. Also, subscribe to their page in FB and YouTube at the same time. Also, have their notifications para you will be notified when they are conducting some events or some webinars, which you might be thinking it's useful. And don't forget to share it. Don't also forget to support your campaign. Hashtag say no to plastic straw. It's really a good advocacy in helping save our earth and our environment. Okay, let's continue. Now, so here I have included pictures. The first part of the picture, as you could see here, nakikita na po ba? I have shared some pictures which is about different classroom setting. Ayan. Here, two pictures. You could see that in the first one, it shows a traditional classroom wherein the teacher goes inside the room, discussing and interacting with the students, asking questions, dealing with some matters in school, having recitations, graded activities. And on the other side, this is what we are facing right now because this is a challenge, the online learning or the online study. So if you could notice, class activities have been suspended, has been postponed, has been canceled and delayed, and has been moved to other schedules. Kasi nga, we are still preparing for this. Maybe we could say na we are not really prepared for such thing because we really did not anticipate that it's going to happen. Who would have thought that life nowadays would be hit by a pandemic and a pandemic that would greatly affect not only the health sector but also the educational sector. Like what you could notice, damay-damay ang naapektuhan. It's not only one sector, however, it greatly affected not only the Philippines but the rest of the world. However, there are also advantages. Maybe one thing is that this time we have to upgrade ourselves with the use of technology because we have no other means. We can't just stop the education for our students. We have to continue with it. We just have to be resourceful on what are we going to do in order to answer some issues pertaining to education. Kaya nga, if you could see, I would really suggest that attending webinars, especially webinars that are interactive and gives workshops because through that, you could upgrade your skills and your knowledge. Let's not just be after the certificate. Kasi may iba, what they do is, they will log in, they would register. Pagkatapos ang nakakalungkot, hindi naman po nila panonoorin and then later on, they will just watch how would they be able to get the certificate. Ano po bang mas mahalaga, ang certificate or yung matutunan mo? Okay? Pareho po silang importante because I think for other schools, they really require the certificate as an evidence. But what's the use of the certificate if the knowledge that you have learned from that has been deprived because you didn't watch and you did not actively participate? So I would suggest that it's really good that you keep on updating your skills. Lalo na if it's a free webinar, you wouldn't have to pay for anything, then take advantage of it. Now, I'll proceed on with the main contents of our discussion for today. In innovative teaching, this would be highly supported by the supplementary resource materials. So more or less, we'll focus on the supplementary resource materials and later on, I'll show you an example of how can your PowerPoint presentations and your teaching patterns would become innovative through the use of this. So the definition of the supplementary resource materials, that's for the first part. The purpose and the features of supplementary resource materials, its characteristics, the things to consider in selecting supplementary materials, and the classification of supplementary resource materials. Okay, why are contents important? It's because you are giving a gauge or something like a perspective for your audience or for your students later on. What do they expect to learn for this day? Kagaya halimbawa, you are in the actual classroom setting. Before you begin on with the proper discussion, you make a review. Oh, last week, what we have discussed is all about this. For today, this will be our topics. Okay? So you're setting the expectations of what they need to know. Another, apart from this consents, since I have mentioned about the definition of the supplemental resource materials, as we define it, it would be known as the materials in teaching which are used to extend support or to extend and support instruction and address the needs of the learner. From its definition, it's an extension, it's a support, it's a reinforcement. Of course, these are not designed to be the sole instructional resource for a course, but it serves to complement and enrich the content of the comprehensive resources. For example, your discussion has been taken from different reference materials. You have your reference books. You were able to get other sources like journals or articles or other previously published materials. You compiled them, you make your lesson, now you discuss them. Okay? What are you going to do in order for your students to learn it most? So anong gagawin mo? You have to think of a different way on how are you going to make the students understand effectively what you are teaching. Because if it's just a pure discussion, tapos hindi pa kayo magkasama, you are not doing it face to face, then there could be a barrier. And if there is a barrier, there could be a hindrance for the learning to become effective. If you're going to recall, inside the class, we have a challenge on keeping our students become engaged and become focused on our lessons. How much more if you are not with them in the same classroom? You don't monitor what they're doing. Hindi mo nga nakikita anong ginagawa nila. Others could be putting off their video kapag nagkakaroon kayo ng online sessions. They might do anything. They might step away from the computer or from their cell phones or whatever gadgets that they will be using. And how are you going to listen to them? How are you going to monitor them? Pag nakikita natin sila, di ba, pag may nakakatulog, sasawayin. Kapag may nagdadaldalan or may nagbubulungan, sasawayin. This time, paano mo sila sasawayin? And how are you going to get their attention if you will just talk and present these PowerPoint slides? Lalo kung yung PowerPoint presentations natin is very much loaded with a lot of paragraphs, heavy text, they would probably lose their attention. Next would be, take a look at this. Pictures of ice creams. However, they are on a different presentation. How is this possible or how does it relate with a supplemental resource material? So baka may mga natatakam dyan. Umagang-umaga, may pa-ice cream. Sana kumakain ng ice cream, lalo medyo mainit na yung panahon ngayon. Sa hapon lang or sa gabi umuulan. So how do we connect this with a supplemental resource material? Take a look. In this illustration, may ice creams na nasa cone. It's plain. Okay? Kunwari, ito yung lecture natin, yung discussion natin. Masarap naman siya. Okay naman siya. At makakita ka pa lang ng ice cream, matatakam pa naman talaga. However, para mas sumarap yung ice cream, take a look. Not just the ice cream itself and not just the cone, but you put some toppings and add-ons. Like for example, here, you have your Rice Krispies, you have your candy sprinkles, you have your cherries, you have other flavors and substances added to the ice cream. And so, this one will be more enticing and appealing to the person, especially for those who are enjoying ice cream very much. So, ganun din sa supplemental resource materials. Nagtuturo ka na, nagle-lecture ka na, but you make another way or you do other means on how are you going to make your audience grab and catch what you are listening with or what you are teaching to them. Now, let's proceed on with the feeds for this traditional teaching and the online teaching comparison. So if you're going to take a look at this, traditional teaching, depending on what level you are, it depends kung nasa preschool, kinder, elementary. In elementary, grade 1 to grade 6, iba-iba sila ng needs, iba-iba sila ng pangangailangan at kailangang makita. How much more if you will be in a higher level? So there should be adjustments. So take a look at this. It's a discussion, it's an interaction. On this illustration, take a look. The teacher uses a supplemental resource material. Meron siyang hawak na aid, na guided aid, para siyang malaking libro, a colorful book. Tapos naka-props pa si teacher, meron siyang crown na may flowers. So it could mean something. She might be portraying that she's a part of the character in the story. So take a look. The students are highly to pay attention. Why? If you could notice, people get attracted to what they see. Right? O kayo nga, di ba? Tayo pala. Pag may nakita kang maganda, matangkad, or gwapo, matangkad, maputi, kung yun ang tipo mo, take a look, andun agad ang iyong attention. Kita mo agad, titignan mo agad. If our eyes catch something which is appealing, then we tune our attention to that. Now, the challenge in the online teaching, this time, kung naka-attend kayo or if your school holds simulation activities for teaching or if you had online meetings, take a look at this. Naiipon na lang tayo sa maliliit na boxes containing our pictures. Okay? Now, this one is the challenge. How are you going to make these people engage when you are speaking? On the other illustration, it's done online. However, the teachers still use some supplemental resources to reinforce the learning. This could be mostly applicable sa mga batang tinuturuan natin. But it still depends on what material are you going to use. So later, I will be giving examples as we go along with the types of the supplemental resource materials. Now, so take a look at the purpose of this. First, it helped to motivate the learners, like what I have mentioned, to keep the attention, to keep the focus, to motivate our learners, then make use of the supplemental resource materials. Another, we could save time and effort while presenting learning items. Okay, instead of typing the whole lecture, the whole discussion, why not share it to your screen and let the students see it? Why not give them a copy of it and discuss it with them? Right? So it saves time. Another, it adds variety to teaching. Okay. It adds flavor. It's not boring because it's not monotonous. Okay? And one good thing for supplemental resource materials, you could take the advantage of tailor fitting it to the topics that you're going to discuss. Like, for example, your topic is about the human body, anatomy and physiology, for example. So, what could be the things that you could utilize with this? Oh, you might be thinking, I might be downloading some charts, colorful charts related to human body, showing its parts, showing its functions. Okay? So that's one good thing. Another thing is that sa next topic mo, paano naman kaya? Another means I could be sharing some videos to show the process on how is it going on. Then that could be adding variety to your teaching. And you notice that some other time, effective pala ang hindi lang picture, mabuti rin na nakikita nila kung paano yung proseso, then add some more to supplement it. Lagyan mo ng tugtog, lagyan mo ng mga gumagalaw na illustrations, and that would be more enticing and it will enhance the learning of your students. Another, it is also useful to get information to people with regards to their culture. Like for example, kasi like what had been introduced earlier, I'm in the International Affairs Office. You could notice that in the office, I deal with different nationalities. We have Turkish students, we have Chinese students, we have Australian students, and so on. And talking with them means adjusting to different levels for both of us to effectively understand each other. And how are we going to understand each other? Of course, it's important that both of us know the culture or the background of our nationality. Because if you know the culture, more likely you will be able to speak in the language that they could understand. Nagkakaintindihan kami. Magkakaintindihan kayo if you know the culture. Kung wala naman kayong international students, iba-iba pa rin ang kultura. Especially here in the Philippines, we are very diverse. From Luzon down to Mindanao, you could notice that there are differences with the practices. And if you know the culture, you might be incorporating that into your lesson. Then you could say, in this place, the practice is like this. In comparison with our present situation or our present location, this is what we're doing. Now, you give a diverse discussion, you make it wide, at the same time, you make the students feel that they are part of your learning process. Because one means of effective learning and effective education is you make the students feel, you make everyone feel that they are part of your discussion. Now, another purpose of that is it helps the learners to understand and grasp information. Kung paulit-ulit yan, nare-reinforce nila. Hindi lang nare-reinforce. It gives a good retention on their brains. Okay? Paulit-ulit nilang nakikita, naririnig, nababasa. I'm telling you, that could be a good way of making their memories have a good recall of this. Now, aside from these features, or aside from those, the purposes, take a look at these features. It's informative, it's instructional, it's experiential, it's encouraging, and it is exploratory. Okay. Okay. Ayan. For informative, meaning would be it gives information. Now, syempre, you don't just simply use supplementary resource materials. Anong kailangan mong gawin? Make use of supplementary resource materials which are highly related to what you are discussing. Of course, it should serve a great purpose to enhance the teaching. Hindi lang dahil nagandahan ka or nagustuhan mo itong material na to, ay gagamitin mo na. Make sure you connect that with what you will discuss in certain topics. Kaya nga, when we teach, it takes time to prepare. Whatever we do, it needs some preparation. Ayaw naman natin na on the spot ka. Although, hindi mo maiiwasan, may instances na talaga that you have to work on the spot. But if you are having some time for preparation, then why not do it? Kaya nga, in my case, when I present not only to webinars or to speaking engagements inside the classroom, I make sure that I am prepared. Prepared physically, prepared mentally, and at the same time, I could control my emotions. Why? I don't like it when the students do not focus their attention. Kahit sino naman siguro ayaw. And also, I set myself as an example to the students that in the time that they are the ones who will be presenting, more or less, they should also do the same thing. Or not the same thing, they could make it better. Okay? Another is that it should be instructional. Informative to combine with instructional, then it's educational. Okay? Experiential, especially for some topics which is all about the self of the individual. Uh, you might be saying, paano kaya sa mathematics, paano magiging experiential? Don't just connect or simply focus on the numbers, but try to link those numbers to certain real life situations or stories. Okay? Matrabaho, you might be saying matrabaho, matagal ang gagawin kung iisa-isahin ko pa yun na ganun. Yes, matrabaho. However, your students could gauge and get information more and would understand it more if you make it experiential. Okay? At the same time, it should be encouraging. Of course, there are different mechanisms how people try to understand dealing on with others. Paano? Others challenge people by saying things na china-challenge kita dahil pinagsasabihan kita ng mga bagay na nakaka-uplift sa'yo. Kaya mo yan, nagagawa mo yan, that's possible. But in other people, may instances na iba ang way ng pag-challenge nila. It's a bit that they are strict, na parang sinusukat ka talaga, o kaya naman medyo negative ang kanilang pag-present ng pag-challenge sa tao. Okay? So whatever type you are there, more or less try to encourage these young students. Bakit? Consider na natin yung panahon ngayon. Both of us, lahat tayo, meron tayong challenges sa buhay. Whether personal life natin, whether finances natin, whether other aspects na meron tayo, more or less, try to be supportive. Try to be encouraging at the same time. And remember, we're not just teaching our students academically. We also have to remember that we as teachers or we as educators are part of molding what kind of people we would be having in the future. Next would be exploratory. What about the exploratory? It gives way for possible thinking and higher cognitive process. Why? Because you explore new ways. You try to make new things possible at the same time. And you make them have the hands-on experience on what you are utilizing. Next would be things to consider in selecting supplementary resource materials. Familiar to learners. Okay, paano kung hindi familiar? E di ituturo mo siya. Okay? Make them feel that they will be mastering using those things, especially in the long run. Like for example, before ang nausong platform, or meron tayong Zoom, meron tayong Google Meet, meron pa tayong ibang mga platforms, then try to make use of those. I-practice natin sila. If you don't practice kasi, you might be saying, ay, mahirap yan, ayoko yan. Why not try to explore it and choose which would be most appropriate and most useful for you? And if you think that's effective, then you could now share your learnings on that to the people that you will be interacting with. And they will be gaining familiarity. Pati ikaw, you will be familiar. Another, motivating, it's appropriate, it's well organized. O, hindi mo sasabihin na, o ganito, 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 ganyan. No, it's well organized because everything is being set and explained. Okay? You might be saying setting expectations, like what I have mentioned. For today, this will be our topic. For today, this is what you're supposed to do, and this will be your homework. I emphasize, I reiterate this. When you give instructions, make sure it's clear. Lalo na hindi kayo nakikita unless gusto nyong i-chat kayo ng i-chat, ma'am, ganito po ba? Sir, ganito po ba? Kakasabi mo lang, uulitin na naman. There could be something, baka hindi nila talaga naintindihan, lalo kung sobrang daming nagtatanong. Okay? So, make it to a point that it's well organized and it's well instructed. And of course, make it attractive. O yung iba sasabihin, o yung PowerPoint ko, white and black lang. Walang ibang makikita. Hindi ko naman sinasabing wag mo nang gamitin yan. You still may be using that. However, make it attractive. You will really spend time, effort, sacrifice in making your PowerPoint presentations. And mind you, it's not really easy. Okay? Bakit hindi ganun kadali? Kasi dapat matyaga ka. It's easy to create slides, add picture, but if you want to have a good design of it, if you want to have good transitions, animations, shadings, and effects, then you really have to explore it. Okay? Maraming nauusong apps which you could explore to help you with your presentations. I'm telling you. And match it with the stability for your learners' interests, age, and needs. Okay? Next, let's proceed. So, here are classification of supplementary materials. Here we have five. We'll begin with the paper supplementary materials, then the digital supplementary materials, manipulatives, demonstrations, and the last is the realia. So let's proceed with the paper supplementary materials. From the term itself, when we speak of paper, it refers to printed materials. So what are the examples? Books. From books, we could have encyclopedia, thesaurus, dictionary, the reference books, yung makakapal na ginagamit natin. Another, the magazines, newspapers. We could also have the flashcards, lalo sa mga bata. Magagamit ito. The use of the word cards. Ito, take a look at the illustrations. It could have a picture, it could have a word. It could also have your notes, which is being compiled, the index cards that you are using in the classroom, the charts and the posters, especially when you try to design and decorate your classroom, lalo po sa mga elementary and high school and kindergarten rooms talagang they are very creative, napakaganda ng mga classrooms nila. And anything that is printed and is being used to supply your learning materials. So these are the examples of the paper supplementary materials. Afterwards, let's proceed with the digital supplementary materials. Here, we make use of the technology. You have your computers, you have your laptops, you have your cell phones. It's part of also of the learning process because we utilize the cell phones also. And here we have the IWB, the interactive whiteboard. I'm sure some of the universities also have this. Okay, so this is the smart whiteboard. Ayan, oh. If you could see, you could draw, you could create, you could drag it. Also, students could take an experience of the interface for this. Also, in digital supplementary materials, we make use of ebooks. Yung mga ebooks, I know you are using this as your reference sources. Hindi na kailangan bumili ng mga mabibigat na libro. May mga nada-download tayo na free ebooks. Yung iba may subscriptions, others could be paid, but there are free resources for the ebooks. Also, we have the audio files, MP3 files. What's the advantage of this? Even though your student is lying down, nakahiga na yan, if you send your audio files, they could listen to it and more or less, ideas are getting into their minds and they are processing it. Then we have the podcast. Okay, who have tried podcast here? Oh, I'm sure many of you have tried this podcast. These are also audio files wherein you could choose from a variety of topics and there are some explanations being discussed by different people who could have shared their knowledge about the topic. Maybe you could try on using that later on. Now, if you want to enhance the audio files, since we say that learning could be more effective not only to what people hear but also to what people see, then make use of the video files. You have your MP4s, yung mga mahilig manood dyan ng videos through YouTube, you could make use of it. Now, we have TED Talks. Ito rin, it presents different speakers explaining a certain topic, sharing their knowledge. Also, take a look at this. We have blogs and vlogs. So, ano yung pinagkaiba nila? Si blog, it's made up of texts. Okay? Mababasa siya. While si vlog, si video ito na may nag-narrate or may nagdi-discuss. Another, since halos lahat ng tao ay may Facebook account, why not utilize the social media? Okay, kagaya ng ginagawa natin dito. We request Follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook. Here is my IG account o my Instagram kayo. Make use of that because it will be very advantageous. Just be careful what you're going to post in your FB account, especially if that's your personal account, because I'm sure your students will take a look to stalk and browse your profile. So make sure if you want to share something, then that's good for you and it's okay for you that everybody would know something about you through your social media account. So ganun din, even you could browse, especially kung may account yung student mo, you could browse and you could make a background check. Ano bang ginawa ng mga batang to? Now, since lagi silang nasa Facebook, edi dyan ka mag-post ng mga assignment mo. Gawa ka ng FB group ninyo and tell your students, I will be posting our activity or our discussions in the FB group. While browsing, o kahit hindi naman sila nag-aaral, makikita nila yung pinost mo, then more likely they would say, ay, meron pala kaming homework dito. There is something that I have to do here. Okay? So that's one of the advantage of the social media. And napakabilis din, lalo kapag kahit naka-free data yung bata, kapag chat, nababasa nila yan. Okay? So those are good things when we speak of the digital supplementary resource materials. Now let's go with manipulatives. What are these manipulatives all about? Okay, take a look at this. We have the DAMAth, into which it's made up of mathematical equations, numbers, tapos para rin siyang chessboard. Okay? We have here the word factory. Ito yung maingay kapag you're placing this dice on their boxes and then it's timed. You have chess, you have Scrabble. You might be saying, ma'am, paano namin yan ipapagawa? Naka-online tayo ngayon. You just have to explore. There are online types of these games. Okay? So if you want your students to try it, then you just take a look at how are you going to utilize it online. Kasi meron siya wherein you could set a match wherein your students could play with it by just clicking and clicking. And to your advantage, hindi ka lang naman nag-aalaw makipaglaro sa kanila, but you are trying to improve their minds at the same time. Another, as you could see here, you have colored tiles, colored counters, cubes, counting sticks, and counting bears. So those are important. Okay. Going back, we have here the demonstrations after the manipulatives. What are these demonstrations all about? Words plus performance. Bakit words plus performance? Because here, words refer to your explanation. Habang nagdi-discuss ka, habang nagsasalita ka, then those refer to your words. Now, to make it more effective as you teach, we perform it. You actually demonstrate it. Okay? So, in the normal setup, the instructor is in front of the students. It's like a cooking class. She is demonstrating how to prepare something. And these are the actual things. On the other side, which is done online, anong ginagawa niya? Meron siyang actual na hawak. She is holding an actual material and the other materials are ready on her table and she is showing it to the students. So this is an example of a demonstration. Now you could utilize it and make use of it to your advantage because it will help you simplify your lessons at the same time. And to connect with demonstrations, we have the realia. So from the word itself, these are objects or activities used to relate classroom teaching to real life. And the use of this brings a welcome change in the class, a break from the typical class activities like the reading and writing. Of course, the students would get bored. If you read and write, alam ko, alam nyo rin naman po yan. Naging estudyante tayo at mga estudyante pa rin tayo hanggang ngayon. And it's very boring, it would lose our interest, we would feel tired if we are not interested with what we're doing, whether we admit it or not. Now, this realia in involves the kinesthetic type of learning. This is the type of learning that students will most effectively acquire because of hands-on experience. Okay, bakit hands-on experience? Kasi you will make them feel or you will allow them to utilize it. So take a look at the examples of the realia. So in a laboratory, in a science laboratory, this is what you usually see. Okay? Nahahawakan yan, nadedetach itong mga figures na to. Ito yung heart model. Ito, showing the different arteries in the veins. This is the development of a fetus inside the womb of a mother. Now, how are you going to present it online? Okay? Hindi pwedeng mahawakan ng mga estudyante. Then make use of an online realia. How is that possible? You like watching videos, right? Okay. So, go to the site wherein you watch the videos. Type the topic you intend to show, the process of the cardiovascular system or the heart. And an interactive video will show you with that. Okay? Now, paano naman kung gusto ko labeling examination? No problem with labeling examination. You could search for a photo or you could try taking a look at some activities related to the heart. Labeling the heart, itype mo lang yun sa Google and then search it. May makikita ka na automatically that there are ready-made tests for that. Diba, napaka-simple at napakadali. So, realia strategies. So, when to use realia, it depends on the lesson. Okay? There are pros of realia. Kung magkasama kayo face-to-face, the students could smell, touch, and hear the material that you are using, lalo na kung food yan. Paano naman po maaamoy, mahahawakan at maririnig ng bata kung hindi kayo magkasama? Well, kung nasa mga lower level kayo ng estudyante, mga bata, mga kinder, syempre, part naman talaga ng lesson is you involve their parents. Now, you may be telling their parents if you have some props which could be used, like for example, your topic is about discussing the different senses, particularly explaining the sense of taste. O, mami, baka meron kayong asukal dyan, o kaya asin, o kaya suka, pakiready nyo lang po yan. Because next time, our discussion would talk about the taste. So, ipapatikim nyo lang po sa anak ninyo kung anong lasa ng mga ingredients na yan. Let them smell also. Let them touch it. So that's one way of converting this strategy whenever it comes to online teaching. It's still possible. So what are the advantages of this? You have to be creative enough to incorporate realia into your daily lessons. There could be a difficulty in finding it for the needed lesson. Yes, it could be difficult. That's a challenge. But I'm telling you, napaka-wide na ng mga makukuha natin sa internet. Napakarami ng makukuhang resources. Make use of those. Another lessons, realia can be included in a variety of lessons. Mostly, it could be used in teaching culture or vocabulary. Actually, sa science talagang magagamit ito. Guidelines, if you can always try to use a real object, but if not, you could have substitutes. Paano substitutes? Pictures, videos. Next, the virtual realia, it's often faster to show a student an object through a computer screen. So, this is what we could do in utilizing these different strategies. So, madali lang, di ba? Okay? Now, at this point, like what we have mentioned about the different classifications of supplementary resource materials, again, please log in to menti.com. Let's just wait for the code. And there is just one question that I would like you to answer. Which supplemental materials do you prefer to use in your lecture sessions? Log into menti.com, www www.mensi.com and use the code 1704658. Again, the code is 1704658. It will prompt you to a question. Which supplemental materials do you prefer to use in your lecture sessions? Sige, pakitignan nga po para makita natin kung ano yung mga preferences ninyo sa pagtuturo. Ayan, may nakikita na akong sumasagot. Thank you po. Okay. So I'm seeing responses here. Nakita ninyo, di ba? In between din, you could add when you're having your discussions. In between, make it interactive. You could tell your students, answer this question just to see if they are really still with you. And they might be thinking, meron palang question dito. We have to answer this. We have to check on with this. So, makikita natin siya and you could have a good interaction with them. Now, I'm seeing good responses here. Okay, you might be thinking, paano nakasama si educational games? Later, we'll discuss more also for educational games as part of our instructional material as a supplemental resource material. So as you could see, with what we use here, 0% for audio file. Okay, that's acceptable. Kasi nga, kung may audio-visual ka naman, di ba? Why not use something which could be seen and which could be both heard by your respondents? Educational games is 5%, audio file 18% this time. Okay, it's increasing. And the highest percentage is the combined use of materials. Yes, maganda to. Let's combine the use of these resource materials kasi nga, not just adding variety, but also filling and aiding on with your students as they proceed on with the lessons that you want them to know. Okay, so thank you once again for answering this question. So, shall we proceed with the next? Okay, so I think we're good here. Don't worry, later you still have other activities to answer and to follow. Let's proceed with the next. Now, here are some pointers in using supplementary materials. I keep on emphasizing about giving clear instructions, right? So, if we give clear instructions, it prevents our student from getting lost. It prevents us from repeating what they should do. Okay? Ayaw natin ng paulit-ulit. And being a teacher, you have to have more patience. Mahabang pasensya. Okay? Provide appropriate activities for students' needs and levels and adapt for use at different levels. Syempre, there are games which could not be suited for very young audience. Kung very young audience yan, of course, you wouldn't write very complicated words. You wouldn't use very intellectual words. They might not grasp it. So instead, make use of pictures that would catch their attention. And games and other activities should have a clear purpose. Bakit mo ba gagamitin yun? Bakit mo ba kailangan gawin yun? So that's one purpose. So let's take a look at the components of the course design triangle. This will help us in preparation of our learnings. It doesn't have to be very complicated, but at least you see the different components of it. I know, lalo sa elementary and high school teachers, you have your lesson plans. Marami talagang components na kailangan gawin yun. And with your lesson plans, that will help you in how are you going to deliver the instructions well. Okay, so here are the components of the course design triangle. It's made up of the learning objectives over here, assessment on the other side, and instruction on the other end. So first, what is a course context? You begin with this course context before you proceed on with preparation for your learning objectives, your assessment, and your instruction. So what is a course context? First, know who are your students. Okay? Kaya nga, di ba? Our teaching load is given ahead of time. Why? To make us know their sections. Habang inaalam mo yung section, habang pine-prepare mo ang class record mo, know the class size. O kung 50, 80, masyado na yatang marami yun, then know how to handle it. Paano mo siya gagawin? Another, your class size will also let you determine what would be effective materials that you could utilize for handling such kind of class. Okay? Diba? We have a different approach when we have one-on-one sessions with a student. Yung parang tutorial lang. That's a different session compared when you are having a great number of students. In a graduate school also, hindi siya typical na parang classroom setup na 50 ang estudyante. Mostly the students are in a lesser number. So, with regards to the number of your students, the class size, you will be able to perfectly suit it with your objectives, with your assessment, and how are you going to deal on with your instruction. Now, how many credits for this course? Is this a major subject or a minor subject? Is it a prerequisite to another subject? Then you have to know that. Why? Because you will know the degree. Gaano kabigat ba ang kailangan mong ibigay dito? Gaano kabigat ba ang training at lecturing na kailangan mong gawin dito? Dahil you're considering the credits for the course. Hindi naman natin sinasabing kung minor subject ka, kahit hindi mo yun kaya rin masyado. No. What I keep, in my opinion, what I keep on telling my students is that major and minor subjects are both important. Why? It's just a matter of like, you passed the major subject, but you failed your minor subject. Do you think you're going to graduate? Of course not. You have to repeat on taking the minor subject. Why? It's part of your curriculum. If you will not be able to pass your minor subject, you still have to repeat it before you'll be able to graduate. Now, bakit mo sasayangin? Kung nandyan yung minor subject at enrolled ka, edi pagbutihan mo rin. Okay? Maybe it's just a matter of your prioritization and giving importance, and mostly to handle it well, how you manage attending with your lessons. Okay? Now, for learning objectives, these are the statements that describe your goals for the student learning. A while ago, we have begun with the learning objectives also. Why do we include it? Sabi ko nga, it's important that you set your expectations to your students. Also, this is the bedrock of course design, and it shapes all other components. Why? The things that you're going to do with assessment and instruction is anchored to your learning objectives. Okay? Hindi ka makakagawa ng assessment and instruction kung wala kang goal. Like what we have in life, we set our goals, we set our aims, we set our dreams. Why? Because the next set of actions that we're going to do is based on what we have set. Or like for example, your target is, I want to complete my PhD for 3 years. So yun na nasa utak mo. So paano mo siya makukumpleto? Then dun susunod kung ano yung mga activities na gagawin mo. First and foremost, mag-e-enroll ka. Hindi mo yan makukumpleto na hindi ka mag-e-enroll. Another, ilang units ba ang kailangan kong makumpleto? Kung 60 units yan, sa isang semester, ilan ang kailangan kong matake? Now, you also consider, trimester ba to? Semester ba to? what is the maximum number of units I could get? So that's also a consideration. Now, if you're going to work hard on it, maybe you'll be able to get it. Okay? So your goals will set the movements and the set of the rest of the activities that you're supposed to do. Another assessment. These methods are the tasks, these are the methods and the tasks used to monitor students' progress towards your objectives. Example, examinations that you give. These are part of the assessment. It's trying to check if your students were able to understand what you have discussed. Or you might be questioning me right now, how are we going to effectively gauge if our students really learn? Remember, we have synchronous mode, we have asynchronous mode. In synchronous mode, real-time feedback. Like for example, graded recitation o nagtawag ka, you expect the student to answer. So that's synchronous kasi magkausap kayo at that same moment. But it couldn't be done. Hindi naman pa pwedeng 24/7 naka-online kayong dalawa. You still have other things to attend with. So what you're supposed to do is this asynchronous learning. Like for example, you assign a homework. You give a set of instructions and also a deadline. Now, if you say submit it on August 17, that's the deadline. So you expect on or before August 17, there will be answers given by your students. Now, as you see them, don't just let them pass. I would highly recommend you read what your students have submitted. Bakit? Hindi lang naman dapat sila mag-comply, di ba? As you read on, it gives acknowledgement on the efforts that your student have done. Another, mag-gauge mo talaga kung may nag-grasp siya sa sinasabi mo. Or you could see kung nagka-copy and paste lang yan kasi madali naman siyang i-search kung talagang kinopy niya lang yan entirely. So that's one thing of an assessment. Kung titignan natin, di ba? It's not very easy. Nagturo ka na, mag-check ka pa. Well, that's part of what we have chosen as a vocation in our life. Okay, then let's make the best of it. Another, it also involves activities, projects, and presentations. Sa presentations, you could still let them group with other members. Kagaya ng ginagawa natin sa klase o groupings, we allot a certain time. You could allow your students to have a certain group. Gawa sila ng video nila, ng sila presentations nila, and they interact with each other. When they present as a group in the class, then all the classes or all the members, as well as the other students, will be able to watch and will be able to see what are they doing. And then instructions is day-to-day activity used to help the students reach the objectives. This is how you lecture, this is how you give your discussions, this is how you present the lessons that you have prepared for them. Okay? So going back, if you could see here, ayan, no, we should have a clear purpose on what we are instructing them to do, right? So let's try doing this. Okay, try lang natin kung okay siya. Maybe you're familiar with Kahoot. Diba? This is also an interactive. Here is the code. It's 161534. Join at www.kahoot.it, or if you have Kahoot app, you could directly use it and enter the PIN 161534. As you could see, it's waiting for players. I hope you log in para matry natin yung game. You could also utilize this for your students. Ayan, I could see names. May mga sumasali na. Good. Before we start it, nice. Hintay lang tayo ng ibang players, ha? So let's just wait for a few more players. Nice. You are very interactive. You're very participative.
Yes, ma'am. Nakakatuwa, no? Ang dami nila.
Oo, we like this kind
Dum-
of audience na
Dumadami
talagang
sila. Opo.
nagpa-participate.
Ayan. So, hopefully, makopy ninyo yung link nandun sa ating live chat box, yung www.kahoot.it. And please kindly copy din yung game pin, which is 161534. Lahat ng info na yan ay nasa live chat natin. Just copy and paste na lang po ang ating gagawin para po makapag-join kayo sa interactive game ni Ma'am Jonah. Ayan. So hopefully ma-adapt nyo rin tong ganitong strategy sa inyong online classroom. So napakaganda. For sure magiging excited and napaka-interactive nung magiging discussion ninyo. Ayan po. So ayan, may mga nagchat-chat dito Ma'am Jonah from our YouTube live chat na nandun na raw sila. They're in. Ayan po.
Okay,
Ayan.
ayan.
So
Maraming salamat,
nakakatuwa.
Sir Ed.
So
So,
hopefully
I think
dumami pa. Opo.
mukhang dumadami pa eh.
Opo.
Hintay-hintay lang natin
Sige.
sana yung
Okay lang.
iba.
Hintay tayo siguro
Sayang.
mga 3 or 2 to 3 minutes, ma'am. Okay lang. Relax naman. Ayan
Okay,
po.
sir. Tsaka sayang kung hindi makakasali ang players
Opo.
natin.
Ayan. So, napaka-exciting nito kasi parang gamification ang dating. So, we're going to play a game. Simple game and napaka-interactive niya. Mm.
Tsaka makinig
Sana
naman sila,
ma-inspire
di
sila.
ba?
Yes, ma'am. For sure they will be inspired from this, and for sure din may adapt nila to sa kanilang online classroom, lalo na kung
Yes.
synchronous yung kanilang style. Mm-mm. Ayan. Si Sir Wonder, according to him, ginagawa niya rin daw to. Good for you, sir, kasi talaga
That's
namang
good, sir.
napaka-interactive, no? Mm-mm. Ayan. Ayan. So wait lang tayo siguro. Ayan po.
Sa ating audience, wait lang po. We'll give 2 more minutes. It's 11:25. 11:27 we'll start the game. So, para rin po makapag-relax yung ibang audience natin kasi baka siguro talagang nakatutok sila sa panood.
Yes, opo. So according to Sir Leandro, he's also using it at tsaka competitive quiz. Yan, doon niya daw
Yes.
ina-apply. Ayan. So you may drop or you may chat your thoughts, no, ideas para makapag-collaborate tayo interactive sa ating live chat. Ayan, so kung sino na yung nakagamit ng mga tools, yung mga platforms like Menti, tsaka tong Kahoot, you may share your experience to us. Ayan, para two-way, no, hindi yung parang kami lang yung sage on the stage, dini-discourage na yun, parang maganda interactive batuan ng ideas. Ayan. So for sure yung iba natin teachers gumagamit ng iba ring mga techniques nila. Ayan, you may share. Ayan po. Sharing is caring nga naman, di ba? Sabi nila. Ayan po.
Okay, 1 minute to go and we're good.
Ayan, ma'am. So, I leave you the decision na, ma'am, kung kailan nyo i-start na, ma'am. Opo.
Konti na lang
Mm.
para rin makita ng iba pang hindi pa nakakagamit. So they would see, and sa estudyante rin,
Mm.
later on as they deal with game, at the end of the game also, siguro it will challenge them. I want to be the winner for this kasi makita mo lang yung pangalan mo. It's really something. May impact siya kapag ikaw yung nanalo. Okay, so I think I'll start with the game. It's 11:27.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Okay, let's start. Take a look at the questions. O sige, key in your answer. You just click which you think is the answer for the items. I'm hearing Pop's answers coming from our participants, and it's great. Okay? So as you could see, automatic din ang time. So pabilisan tayo. The correct answer for that is paper supplementary materials. Okay, so pabilisan po tayo ng pagpindot kung ano yung sagot. Are we ready for the next question? I think yes. Let's proceed. Okay, this is what I'm telling earlier. So the first or the highest scorer for the question is Miss Ina Ferrer. So congratulations sa first question. Ayan, this is inspiring for our students kasi if you will see na nauuna ka or nangunguna ka, syempre challenging. I want to be the first sa susunod at sa mga susunod pa. Yung mga hindi naman napasok, it's fine. Naglalaro lang po tayo. Friendly competition. So let's continue. Okay. So the correct answer is false. Let's see who gets the highest score this time. Ayun, si Miss Tina Ferrer pa rin. But this time, maraming mga nakapasok sa ating scoreboard. Amor, Drew, Jenny, and Doors. Wow, thank you so much for this. So prepare for the next question. Please type your answer this time. Okay, these are supplementary materials that utilizes gadgets, online platform, and software. So anong type daw po ng supplementary materials? The correct answer is digital. Okay? Let's see. Next. Okay, correct answer is the learning objective. Now, si Miss Tina pa rin ang ating nasa leaderboard. Top 1. Then we have Maymay, Cherjoy, Ayan, and Amor. Okay, congratulations. Okay, next question. Let's see. Ayun, maraming mga isinagot. Let's see kung may tumama. Wow, 20 out of the participants got the correct answer, which is Realia. Okay. So at this point, you could also see that after each of the discussions, in case your students were not able to get the correct answer, you could give time for some sort of explanations. So it's like a rationalization. You're explaining why is this the answer and why is this not the answer. A part of the choices, if it's a multiple choice type of question, then you could make some suggestions. Why is it not letter A? Why is it not letter B? And why is it letter C? Because through that, your students could remember, ay, oo nga pala, ito yung diniscuss before. And they could have some clarification about what they have answered wrongly. Or yung iba naman, kung tumama baka nahula lang sila or bigla lang nilang napindot yun. That's why they were able to make it. Okay, so take the advantage of using that before you proceed on with the next type of question. Hoy, nagkaroon tayo ng changes sa ating top 1. This time we have Maymay. Okay, with the score of 2,285. Okay? So, the sixth out of 7 question. Time is up. Okay. Correct answer is digital. Let's see who got the highest score this time. Ayun, bumalik si Miss Tina Ferrer with a score of 2,396. O ayan, pati yung mga students ninyo, when you're having this in your classroom, mag-uunahan yan. They want to have the highest score at the same time. Kasi whether we agree or not, this have even an impact on the motivation part for our students. Lalo kung lagi mo nakikita yung pangalan mo dyan, you will really become motivated to do more. And for others, it's a challenge. Iba-iba rin naman ang types ng estudyante. We all know may mga highly competitive dyan. Yung iba is friendly competitive lang. Yung iba, okay lang kahit wala ako dyan, that's fine. As long as I understand it. Bawi ako sa written. Ganon. Diba? So it's different. It depends on the person. Last question. Okay, the correct answer is true. Kinesthetic learning is acquired through a hands-on experience. Third is Pepot. Second is Tina Ferrer. Yay! And congratulations to Sally. Ayan, meron pa tayong runners-up na ipinakita kanina.
Yay.
Okay?
Yay, ma'am. Dami.
Congratulations.
Ang dami natuwa, ma'am. Pero there is some questions na siguro entertain natin questions nila, ma'am. Kasi I think
Okay.
they experience some yung other
Oo nga,
participants
may
natin,
loves.
they experience some difficulties dun sa Kahoot.
Mm-mm.
So explain ko lang yung technicalities niya based on my experience lang naman disclaimer, I'm not part of Kahoot. Ayan. Pero share ko lang yung experience ko So, basically, kaya ganun yung na-experience natin because we're on a live stream. Ayan. So, technically, it means kami ni Ma'am Joanna, nasa Google Meet kami. So, talagang synchronize kami. Every seconds, synchronize. Ayan, di ba? Dumadaan pa si Mami. Ayan. So, synchronize talaga. Kami ni Ma'am Joanna. So, the problem is, nagla-live feed kami papuntang YouTube, may delay ng konti. Ayan. So, kung ang gagawin ninyo is parang webinar type and then magpapaganito, may konting delay pagdating kay Kahoot, yun yung konting na-explore naming problem. Pero if ever na i-utilize nyo si Kahoot through Google Meet or Zoom, tapos nasa loob lahat ng participants, synchronize na synchronize yun. So, medyo mabilis yung response nun. So, ayun po, no? So, sana parang ano lang din natin, parang alam din natin yung idea na ganun. So, parang handa tayo katulad this one, nag-challenge kayo and then may mga questions kayo. So, handa kami kung ano yung sasagot namin. So, based dun sa experience, no? So, yun talaga, konting problem lang pag naka-live stream tayo, live webinar tayo, tapos magpapakahoot tayo. Sometimes yung ibang participants, yung receiving capability ng kanilang mga rev device is mabilis. So kaya nakakapagsagot po sila ng on time. Yun nga lang, the problem is yung signal na nare-receive ninyo sometimes delay kasi nga depende po yan sa ating mga speed ng internet tsaka yung speed ng devices natin. So kapag medyo slow yung inyong internet, kumbaga yung napapanood nyo ngayon sa live stream is delay. Kumbaga nauna na sa Kahoot pero sa live stream paumpisa pa lang. So, ganun po talaga yung how it works pagdating sa live stream. May mga konting delay siya and technical um, glitches sometimes. Ayun po. Ayan. So,
Okay,
sana
tama yan,
medyo
Sir Ed.
parang na-explain ko yung part na yun. Pero, don't worry kapag ka-synchronous naman, normally ang gagawin ninyo, nasa loob kayo ng isang Google Meet or kaya nasa loob kayo ng isang Zoom wherein doon kayo nagko-collaborate, nag-i-interact. So kapag gagamitin niyo si Kahoot sa ganong teleconference, walang problema po yon based on our experience. And I think makakapag-testimony rin dito yung other teachers na nakagamit na nakapag-chat sa ating live chat. Ayan. So thank you for that. So konting clarifications lang doon. Ayan po. Sige
Okay,
ma'am,
thank you, Sir Ed.
apo. I'll give you the floor
I
again ma'am. Thank you.
Okay,
Apo.
salamat po. I think
Sige.
our audience had really gained a clear understanding about how Kahoot works and how it is being fed on when you sync it or when you broadcast it live on other platforms. So ganun lang po siya, but ulitin ko nga, when you're having this in the same platform, like for example in Zoom or in Google, your students could really have an answer and a quick response because you are at the same platform. And also factor din si internet connection natin dito. So, ayun siya. Well, I hope you still try utilizing it. Kasi it's really fun. It lessens the tension that the student might be facing when you say, we have a quiz. Okay? So instead of we have a quiz, rephrase it with other terms. Like, for example, let's proceed with challenge time. Okay? We have a game na hindi nila alam na unti-unti. You're doing your assessments on that. Okay? So let's proceed. At this point, I'll be showing an example of a presentation or a PowerPoint presentation for a topic, for a certain topic that you're going to prepare. So this is just my example. Since I'm under the Department of Psychology, the topic that I have chosen to present is the human development. So this could be just a pattern. Maybe you have other greater and brighter ideas than what I could share, but here are just some tips that I could share with you in order for you to more or less, kung gusto niyo lang, hindi naman po ito sa pilitan, na gawin niyo siya or gayahin niyo siya or whatsoever. Sabi ko nga, you could have brighter ideas than what I have. At least something which I could show you and which I could share with you, which could be useful, which you think could be utilized when you have your classroom set up. So usually, of course, when we do the first stage, we have the topic, we have our title, we have our names in it, and the same thing like what we did earlier, we have this Menti as a game wherein I began with asking, how are you today? You'll see the responses, and later on, it will prompt you to the response of your students or your participants. You could edit that, you could create your own questions, you could create your own choices, you could personalize it, you could customize it at the same time. Afterwards, like what I have mentioned, Now, here are some of the tips to increase student engagement in the virtual classroom. The first is make your students feel valued. Like, how are you going to show them that you value them? Of course, it's very important that you set a certain level of closeness virtually. Like, for example, I have given some things like before you begin, you try to become closer to them by asking how they are, were they able to sleep properly, have they eaten their food. Hindi mo naman sinasabing bibigyan mo sila ng pagkain, but showing or asking those questions help establish a degree of closeness with you and your students. Another, to make them feel that they are valued means you value their time. If you say that you'll be meeting at 10 o'clock, ako kasi I have the practice of when I say it's 10 o'clock, I log in usually 30 minutes ahead of the time. Also, when I prepare for meetings, usually I have international clients. So, make sure that you check on the time kung parehas ba kayo ng time zone. If not, then you make necessary adjustments. But usually, ako kasi sa office, I start the Zoom room or the meeting room around 1 hour before. And I also value the time of my partners as well as the students. Why? Because if I say it, you are setting an example and showing them that you really allotted that time for them. But in some cases that you could really not make it, or there are some technicalities, then you could inform the students. You could inform the people whom you are dealing with. Why? It's a matter of some ethics and professionalism at the same time. Aside from making them feel valued through that practice, mention their names. 'Di ba? When they enter the room, you could suggest to them, kindly write or kindly replace or use your names, your real names, so I could acknowledge and call you whenever we have activities, recitations, or whatever other things. And when you begin, kung nahilig kayo or sanay kayong mag-check ng attendance sa normal na classroom, di ba unti-unti iniisa ninyo, you mention their names, your surnames, and you call them and you check. You could still make a practice here. Pero, syempre, you have to maximize your time kasi consider natin may ibang mga bata na kulang ang kanilang pang-load para sa kanilang pagbili ng data or mahina ang mga internet connection. If you could maximize your time by checking on the participant's name, then yun na lang siya i-check. But it's still depending on what is your preference. Okay? But mention their names. It's a way of acknowledging them. Also, the students should be able to know who you are para alam din nila how to address you at the same time. Then simplify the lessons. I know some lessons could be not so easy to be simplified, but at least try your best. Into which, how could we connect with the students on for them to understand it? Next is adopt in-class activities to the virtual classroom. Okay, we should not limit ourselves. Ay, kasi ito yung kaya namin gawin sa normal eh. Ito hindi pa pwede. Kung hindi pa pwede, what could be an alternative? Pero kung kakaya mo siyang i-incorporate sa online classroom, then try to make it. Next, you have to set goals and help the students stick with that goals. Like for example, you say that the class will begin on October and up to what month are you going to complete it? Diba? Usually the first day we discuss our syllabus with them. So that's one way of setting the goals. Use technology to your advantage. I highly suggest mag-practice, technical rehearsal, technical practice, kahit kayo lang o kaya yung mga co-faculty ninyo. Para lang malaman nyo yung interface, kung paano yung controls, kung paano yung setup. Okay? Kasi that would lessen the time that you will be saying, ay, wait lang, kasi sineset up ko pa, hinahanap ko pa, paano ba to, paano ba ganyan. I-rehearse mo rin yung sarili mo. Another is you could present your best self online. Paano presenting your best self online? Of course, hindi porke nasa bahay ka, nakamukha kang pambahay lang palagi. You still have to look presentable. Remember, getting attention is the visual. Tapos, you might be saying, I could turn off my video. Yes, it's okay to turn off your video. Okay lang naman yung voice. But, I would highly suggest that when you're speaking, when you're discussing, you show yourself. Why? It shows connection. Okay? And more or less, your students will still feel that you are there. Okay? Another thing, check your audio. Baka maingay ang environment mo. It could interfere with the learning. Another, your background at the same time. Make sure na kung ano yung makikita sa screen, it's something still presentable. Hindi ko na sinasabing dapat walang kahit anong nakalagay sa likod mo. No. If you want to make use of virtual backgrounds that other platforms offer, it's up to you as long as it will not uh, make your appearance become distorted kasi may iba kapag mahina yung connection mo, minsan nagkakaroon ng distortion, pati yung kulay ng mukha mo naiiba. So be mindful of that and bring fun into the classroom. So those are some tips to increase student engagement in the classroom. Going back. So if example, your topic is about the human development, again, like what I have mentioned, you begin with the objectives. So the objectives, it's stated usually in the form of sentence. Don't make it very long. Just get the essence of what you want, and simple sentences could be done. Anyway, you will be explaining it later on. So it's a good thing. What they could see here is something that could easily be seen and could be easily read for them to understand it, supporting it with your explanations for each of the item. Okay, so example, you have your 4 objectives, then you may be utilizing it. Another, you begin with the topics. Here, the main topics are the following. Like for example, letter A, letter B, and letter C. And under those areas, you may be including some of the subtopics just to set the pace and just to give them an overview about what you're supposed to discuss. Like what I have mentioned, before you proceed on with your current topics for discussion, make a review of what you have done before. Okay? Also, it's a good thing to give them reminders what you're supposed to expect. If you want them or if you wish them to turn off their notifications or to turn off their microphone, or kung makokontrol nyo na hindi sila magbubukas ng kanilang microphone, then you may be able to do that. Just allow them to unmute if there are interactive discussions that you would like. Also, I would suggest let them open their videos para naman two-way, nagkakakitaan kayo. Doon na nga lang tayo sa simple boxes makikita-kita. So, let's maximize the use of it. Unless, there are cases kasi na humihina or mas bumabagal ang connection ng isang tao kapag nakabukas yung kanyang video. But if it's possible, mas maganda na merong video. Now, after the topics, then you could proceed with your discussions. So, ayan na. Unti-unti na si discussions mo na mailalagay. You could add pictures. Kung makikita nyo, kasi ako, I'm a visual learner personally. And minsan, I make associations of the picture that I will see to the text that I have read. So, ito. If it's growth and development, just give a definition for it. Yan. Highlights muna, then explain it. Hindi naman kailangan punuin mo yan ng sobrang habang paragraphs. They will be bombarded. Mahihilo sila, I'm telling you. Now, after which, continuation, we are now in the concepts related to development. Ganun din. Comparison. But it's up to you, how are you going to present it? I know you are all creative enough. I know you have utilized different platforms. Now, since nakapag-discuss ka na, make some icebreakers. Why? Remember, focus and attention is not that very long. So, para ma-relax muna ang mga isip nila, why not utilize some games? So, hindi ko sinasabing ito ang gamitin ninyo. You could have something in mind na baka mas maganda and which is more appropriate. Remember, it depends on your topic. Now, my example here is the maze game. As you could see in the instruction, you travel through the maze using your cursor and make sure not to exceed the field. Okay, so here, let's press start. So for example, kung nakikita ninyo dito, the background is all about the human development. from conception up to birth. Ayun, nagsimula sa egg at sperm until it finally proceeds with a complete fetus ready for delivery. Now, I have here, balik tayo ha. I have here the field or the maze field. And based on the instruction I have mentioned, you have to travel using your cursor in the field and make sure you not go out of the field because let's see what happens if you go out of the field. Okay, it will tell you to please try again, right? Okay? So, para naman hindi mawalan ng pag-asa, let's try doing it again. For example, ayan, nakasimula ka na, naka-travel ka na, unti-unti, and you reach finish line. Okay, it will prompt you with congratulations. Now, you might be saying, Ma'am, you are the one controlling the PowerPoint. How are we going to make it synchronous for the students? So this is how could I suggest. You could share your PowerPoint presentation to your students. Di ba may mga chat box naman? You could upload it in Google Drive for them to share it or just copy the link, the shareable link from the Google Drive and paste it in the chat box and let your students open it. And then you might be telling them, okay, who wants to try the maze game? And let them share their screen, give them the access to share their screen, and let them try doing the maze game. I'm sure they will enjoy it. And of course, hindi mo naman tatanungin or sasabihin lahat ng students, o one by one gawin niyo. No, you will just select some of the students. Okay? So let's proceed with the next. That's an example, one of the games that you could include. O, paano nangyari yung box na yun or yung grid na yan? Okay. So, sabi nga natin, si PowerPoint, napakarami niyang features. You could maximize the use of it. Yung field na to, yung field na nakikita ninyo kanina, this is just a combination of different shapes or pinagsama-sama ko lang yung rectangles. Pagkatapos, you just set on with some animations, you just set on with some controls. It could be through mouse point or mouse click or mouse over. And then you just click on some items like the picture. And when you prompt and the finish part, sa box na yan, dito sa part ng finish, then you will be able to hyperlink it with the congratulations or the please try again. So, practicing nyo lang siyang gawin. Maybe you're able to do that. Now, after your icebreaker and you wish to continue with your discussion, so you set the pace, you might be saying, after the icebreaker, let's continue with our lesson. The topic for now is about the prenatal development. Now, to make them understand it more, kasi napakagandang topic ng prenatal development, lalo kung nakikita mo or naiintindihan mo siya, you could add some videos or hyperlink. So take a look at this. Forward natin ha. Okay, so as you could see, You could play that before your discussion, or you could play that after discussion. It depends on your preference and which you think could be more effective. Now, you could proceed on with other topics like the different stages involved with here. So, like what I have mentioned, you could add pictures related to what you're discussing, give some pointers or items to describe it, and then you give your explanation. So, this is how it looks like. So, in case naman na ayaw mong mag-hyperlink, gusto mo gamitin si video agad, you could use the feature of the PowerPoint insert video. So, ayan, pwede mo siyang i-play dito. Okay? So, it depends on your choice. Same lang din naman, you have to download it as uh, an MP4 file. Tapos, tsaka mo siya i-continue with your adding of the video to come up with the discussion. Ayan. So the next topic is about the neonate. And as you could see here, it involves the different reflexes. So in my case, like what I have mentioned, you have here the topic or yet the title. Example ng reflex is, one is rooting reflex. Andi dito yung discussion. Kung hindi pa enough si discussion, ito si picture. Hawak-hawak yung side ng cheek ng baby malapit sa kanyang labi. Kung hindi pa enough yung picture, you could again add a video. Okay, so ayun yung example. Sabi ko nga, supplemental siya, di ba? To add more to reinforce the learning. So maybe this could be helpful as you prepare your lessons. But like what I have mentioned, of course, it depends on the topic that you're using. Just be creative and innovative enough, which you think will be best for your presentation. Then the next part, ganun din, continuation lang ni reflexes. So sa akin lahat yan, nilagyan ko siya ng nakalink na videos. Medyo matrabaho nga lang siya kasi yung video, ika-cut mo, ita-download mo, iti-trim mo, or kaya, if you want, idirekta mo ng hyperlink papuntang YouTube or kung saan yung source ng iyong video. Okay? Again, kagaya ng ginawa natin kanina, we have the challenge time. So, ginamit ko naman uli is Kahoot, same with what we have done earlier. Now, the questions, of course, are based on what have you discussed? Or hindi mo gusto nang gamitin si Kahoot dahil ayaw mo na dun mag-prepare ng questions. You would like to incorporate it in your PowerPoint presentation. Now, it depends on you. What kind of type of test or type of question would you like? In this case, I have utilized the multiple choice type of question. And an example for the question is, at what stage of prenatal development does motor behavior begins to appear? Okay, and the choices are germinal stage, embryonic stage, and fetal stage. So, sa akin, what I did here is, when they choose any of the three, it will prompt to telling them if the answer is right or wrong. So, tignan natin. O, hindi ko po sinasabing dapat tama ang sagot ninyo, ha? This is just an example based on the topic that I have presented. So, if the student chooses letter A or the germinal stage, so take a look. When you click it, it prompts you to nice try. So, merong batang nakasad face or medyo malungkot, but give them hope of trying it again. What if the answer is fetal stage? Okay, now it will prompt to, awesome, you're correct. So, etong mga to, yung mga nakasulat dito, this could be customized. It's up to you. What would you like to write there? It's up to you if you want to add pictures or simply plain text. It's up to you where do you want to place it at the same time. So like what I have mentioned, you have just to be creative enough. Okay? Now, supposing you are done with the discussion, you are also done with your challenges and your activities for the day. Before you wrap up, you could proceed on with informing your students about other resources that they could utilize. Like, for example, here in the box of supplemental learning resources, you may tell your students for additional discussions about the topic, you may click the icons below. So you have to make sure to be clear about giving instructions to them. Kung sinasabi mong lahat ito ay dapat panoorin nila at kailangan siguradong pinanood nila, make sure you tell them that it's part of your requirement that you let them read. But if you say you just suggest it, it means you are not requiring them to listen or to watch the videos that you have included there, the audios and the videos that you have included them. So you just tell them, oh, this is just a supplemental material. You may use this as a further reference. And if you don't understand the lessons clearly, this may be of great help. Or like for example, when you say it's MP3, it should be an audio file. When you say it's YouTube or MP4 file, it's a video. So take a look at this example. I linked it. I used the hyperlink to connect it with an MP3 file about the topic development.
Stage of the mole. It first occurs during ovulation. This transpires when egg is released into the fallopian tube. It occurs about halfway through our menstrual cycle.
Okay, so ayun, pwede lang pakinggan ng estudyante. So may discussion siya which is about the topic, related to the topic. So marami naman kayo mahanap na MP3 files na related sa lessons ninyo. Lalo pa ngayon, there are very generous people who really share their knowledge, who really share what they know, who really make recordings, or who really takes effort for presenting things which could be useful for others. Now, if you want them to watch a video on YouTube, that could also be possible, kagaya ng ginagawa natin kanina, like the videos that I have shown earlier, but there are some advantages also, or we could also connect it with some disadvantages, but let's take a look at the advantage side.
Only 2 cells are needed to create a baby. 2 cells and a miracle.
Okay, so if you could see, this is connected with the discussion prenatal development. One good thing in YouTube is that you could see the video, and apart from that, there are related videos which is about pregnancy, prenatal development. Ito dito sa gilid, you just browse it. Okay? O, anong disadvantage? Baka may mapanood ang estudyante na hindi dapat, but I think the students know well enough what to watch and what they really need to watch. Okay? And also from the comments of the other viewers, the students could have an overview. Is this very useful to watch or what? Okay? That could be also an advantage. Let's maximize the advantage of it. Anyway, hindi naman talaga natin makokontrol kung ano pinapanood ng mga estudyante. Kahit naman nung face-to-face tayo, hindi natin nakokontrol ano yung mga pinapanood at anong mga sites ang pinupuntahan nila. And I'm telling you, sometimes our students know more when it comes to technology in comparison with us. And then MP4, kagaya ng kanina, I attach a video on about prenatal development. So, ganun lang din.
The embryo attaches itself to the lining of your womb 5 days after fertilization. And you can now feel movements. The genitals are fully formed and boys can be distinguished from girls. Weeks, your baby weighs around 2.5 kilograms. The period from 37 to 40 weeks is described as full term, ready for delivery.
Okay, so as you could see, those are supplemental learning resources, but it's not just limited to that. If you will still see other sources which you might find useful and effective, then you may incorporate it with your lessons. Now, here I included additional reviewer. Bakit additional reviewer yung itinitle ko sa kanya? Because here, it could enhance their learnings through reading naman. And through reading certain topics, they would clearly know different things related to the topic. I attach here a hyperlink of an ebook related to the topic. Take a look at the example. So, pipili rin kayo ng reference or resource material na talagang accurate. And make sure that when you attach something there, when you hyperlink something, pinasa mo, pinanood mo, pinakinggan mo. Just simply attach it kasi nakita mo yung title is ganun. Okay? Siyempre, you have to make the stringing what you have to include when it comes to discussing the things with your students. And you also have to be careful. Baka mamaya may ma-share ka dyan na kung ano, yung front page cover or front cover lang pala yung related pag pinanood mo iba ang laman. Also, here, a verification kung tama ba yung kanyang nilalagay. And make sure ano ba yung source na yan. Kung Pearson, we know that this one is really publisher of books, so wala tayong problema dyan. So here is an ebook showing the chapter 2 of the prenatal development. Ayan din, it begins with the objectives, an introduction, tas dito on the sides, there are keywords together with some notes. This is a good read when it comes to that topic. Ayan, so the student could really enhance and increase their knowledge about the certain topic. Okay? So marami rin kayong mahahanap ng mga reference books na related dun sa topic ninyo. You just try to maximize it and try to utilize whatever would be best for your topics to be discussed. Next here, the use of flashcards. Marami rin downloadable, marami rin nagagamit through internet. So try using this, quizlet.com. I also find this useful. Okay? The topic is the prenatal development. If you're going to take a look at this, 3 broad periods of prenatal development. If you click it, it will show the answers. Okay? So, marareview si student. Ano nga pala yun? Let's proceed with the next item. What is terminal period? O, mag-iisip si student, ano nga ba ito ulit? O, instead dun sa flash index cards na ginagamit natin, this could be an alternative. Pero if you are still comfortable with the use of the index cards, I'm not discouraging you to use it kasi ako mahilig din talaga ako magsulat. It gives me a more retention. Pero habang nakahiga ka, patay na yung ilaw, at gusto mo mag-review, why not use this? Okay? Makakatulong din siya. Ayan o. Kung ayaw mo naman naka-flashcard siya, ito bago ka pa mag-answer or bago ka pa tumingin kay flashcard, you just browse it downward. There are different terms here related to prenatal development, and beside that, you have the definitions. So, ayan. It's still useful. Or, if you want other means, like for example, ito, you press learn, identification, lalagay mo lang yung sagot. If you answer it, the answer here is amniotic sac. If you answer, okay, it prompts you to study this one, or your answer was correct. Then press any key to continue. So, ganun lang siya. And you may explore also other parts of this. Right, for example, right? Identification type naman siya. Spell. Type what you hear. So, click here to play or start the audio. Okay? It tells embryonic period, so you will simply type embryonic period here. So training din, hindi lang ng visual mo, pati ng auditory mo. And then here we have test. Okay? So ayan. Meron tayong identification part. Meron tayong matching type ng questions. Meron tayong multiple choice. So multiple choice, ang pang-joke ko sa mga estudyante dito is multiple guess. Ma'am, bakit po multiple guess? Di ba nanguhula lang naman kayo? Ayun, ganun ang biruan namin sa klase. May true or false questions na rin siya. Then later on, check answers. Okay, ito pa, it has an option of print test. So, for example, nakabalik na tayo kunwari sa new normal, tapos kontento ka sa question na to, then parang exercise lang sa mga estudyante, you may print it and give it to them. Okay, so ayun yung ibang mga features niya. Tapos meron pa ito, match as part of the play. Ayan, you're going to match you, for example, yung mga keywords na yan, pag dudugtong-dugtongin ninyo. And also here, another feature is the gravity. Okay, itatype mo lang kung ano yung mga makikita mo dyan para mag-disappear siya. And I think we're good with the flashcards part. So ayun, sa quizlet.com, you'll be able to utilize a lot. Now, once you're done giving supplemental learning resources, additional reviewers, if you want to give them a homework, then give clear instructions on their homework. Now, example, I have it here. Read the lecture notes given. Answer the exercises provided. Use MS Word to input your answers and send this in this email. So I have given an email address where they could send. I have also included the deadline of submission so they know when would their answers will be accepted. If you want to make use Google Drive, that's also fine. It's up to you, which is your preference. And if you're particular with the format, the font style, make sure to include it. So upon checking the papers of your students or the outputs of your students, what you have instructed them is what you will be seeing with your papers. If the instructions are not clear, then what would you expect? Huwag mo na sisisihin sila kung hindi malinaw yung binigay mong instructions. So here's an example for notes. Ito naman kay Wiki Educator on the topic growth and development. Marami rin kayo masisearch dito ha. As you could see here, lesson 5, andi dito yung contents. Ayan. And part of that is the growth and development. So part of the homework is answer the activities given sa MS Word. So ita-type nila yan, lalagay nila yung sagot nila. Then this is a good read also. Continue with other assessments. Again, I reiterate, you read and review before sharing this with your students. Make sure it's highly connected and related with the topic that you have discussed with them. So ito, meron pa siyang activities na gagawin ng mga students since yun ang inassign ko sa kanila. Yan. There are different activities and there are additional lectures. Okay. So that's one good thing that the students could learn on. And then also part of my discussions whenever I have it with my classes, whenever I have it with my students, before I end, I give reminders about next online session will be on August 18th, for example. Why? To make them know that this is the next meeting room or the next meeting schedule that you're going to have. Para nakaset din yan sa utak nila. Okay? Mahilig ako kasi mag-remind. Medyo ganun ako. But It's just a suggestion. It's up to you if you want. I usually use Zoom app whenever I'm having online classes. Next, don't forget to submit your assigned task on or before August 15, the deadline that I have set. Read, watch, listen to the given supplemental materials about the topic discussed. So I give that to the students. And then I will be asking, are there clarifications? Is the lesson clear? Which part you were not able to understand? Okay? So para meron din silang interactions. And of course, during the presentations or during the discussions, you might ask them. If you have questions, you try it on the chat box. And at certain point, you try to address the questions. Or if you want to make it interactive, ask questions and then tell your student, okay, please answer the question. And then the student will speak na naririnig din that the other classmates are also hearing. And then from there, you continue on with your discussions. Still, it's up to you which you think is best for them. And also, when I make a discussion, before I end up, I would end it with a quote related to the topic that I have designed. Since my topic is about the prenatal development, this is the quote that I have chosen for that. A new baby is like the beginning of all things, wonder, hope, and a dream of possibilities. Because with this, it may stimulate the minds of the children to think more deeper than what you have discussed with them. Okay? Marami namang mga quotes, downloadable quotes, which is not just related to a single topic. It's actually a variety of many topics. So I think that would be useful for the students. Okay? So next part, I think this is the last part. Here are some tips of keeping your student engaged during the class. Simplify the lessons. You work on timings. Avoid lengthy explanations, but this one, it depends on what you're supposed to discuss. Kung talagang kailangang i-explain at mahaba, it's fine. Okay? Then be creative. Use a variety of activities, try different platforms. Just make sure you're comfortable in dealing with it. And then, here is an example. When you're preparing your PowerPoint presentation, I highly suggest don't bombard it with long paragraphs. Kasi ako personally, when I see that, medyo nalulula ako. Or parang mahirap basahin. Ganun. But for this, it's bulleted. Same contents. Okay? You just take a look at important points that you could include or that you could add. So that's my suggestion. Adapt in-class activities to virtual classroom. Still make it interactive. Make them feel that you are in the same location. Okay? Distance could not keep you apart if you know how to handle it. Question and answer sessions. Lesson-related games like what we did earlier. Different features of educational platforms. Yung iba may bayad, diba? But you could find some free platforms that you could use for your students. I've mentioned make your students feel valued. Here, their names, your name, recap and review lessons. Find out their interests. Okay. Sa interest ng mga estudyante, mahilig yan sa mga K-pop, K-drama, anime. O, gamitin yung pangalan yung mga anime sa mga situational questions na inalagay nyo. I'm sure gagana ang utak niyan kasi marerelate nila sa kung sino yung paborito nila. Another, give feedback on students' work. I think I have mentioned this earlier. If they submitted something to you, kung essay yan, lalo kung about the self, I think it would give you an overview or a background about the student. So I suggest basahin ninyo. If you want to make some feedbacks, then give some comments before sending it back to them. Next, aim to be positive and encouraging presence. Set goals, remind your students of their progress, prepare a clear outline of the lesson, give rewards ko. Yung simpleng congratulations, yung kanina, yung kagaya sa Kahoot na merong parang yung winners, may pinakita, may image na may parang medal, top 1, top 2, top 3, and then we have the runner-ups kasi isa yung sa parang reward. Online, or kung magpapa-activity kayo, like for example, part of your class or part of the curriculum is to conduct a webinar. issue certificates of participation, especially to the organizers. That's a big thing for the students. Use technology to your advantage. Make sure of the comfortable, your comfort in using these virtual tools kung saan ka sanay. Kasi tatanungin ka ng estudyante, ma'am, paano po yun? Paano po yan ginagawa? So, ganun siya. Another, ito yung mga different platform na pwede natin gamitin. I'm not saying gamitin nyo lahat. But if you want, you could try. You could use it. You could utilize it. Edmodo, Schoology. Ito para silang mga may pwedeng class record. Pwede rin dito mo i-upload yung mga PowerPoint presentations mo. You also have MS Teams. Present your best self online. Audio and visual check. Okay, for audio, don't make your voice monotonous. Animate it. If it's fewer of emotions, you match the tone, the sound, the volume of your voice with the emotions. Use things which are of good quality at the same time. Then bring fun into the classroom. Be patient with your students, and that's it for the things that would be helping your students in carrying out their task. Okay? So at this point, before we finally conclude, I hope what I have shared had given some insights which could be helpful in improving your class presentations. I would suggest you go to www.menti.com again and use the code 2489124. And here is the question for the activity. Keyword. Please write a word or phrase that you have remembered based on our discussion. Again, I would suggest please go to www.menti.com and use the code 2489124. I think in the live chat box, nakasulat na po siya with the code. Please interact with it and type your answers. I just want to see ano yung sagot ninyo or kung ano yung mga na-retain ninyo. Siyempre, di ba, bago mo biglang bitawan ang mga estudyante, titignan natin kung ano yung nakikita nila. So here I am seeing answers, value learners, realia, interactive, okay, digital, nice answers, assessment. So, hintay lang natin makapasok yung iba. I'm sure they're still typing their answers. Supplementary materials, engage, interaction. Yung code may nag-type din dito. Natandaan niyo yung code.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, yung iba, I don't know kung di sila makapasok sa Menti. They are
Siguro.
typing on the live chat. Ayan.
Oo.
Pero mas ma-appreciated siguro para mas nakikita, or we can create a word map or word, and tawag dyan, ma'am, sorry.
Oo.
Forget the term. Ayan, so lahat ng mga sagot nyo makikita dito sa screen ni Menti. So maganda type nyo po siya doon. Ayan.
Para lumabas siya.
And the URL is already there. Nandyan na po sa live chat, and nasa na rin po yung ating code. 2481924. Ayan na. So, medyo marami-rami na rin yung nagtatype.
Okay. Always make your students feel valued. It's challenge time. Helpful. Okay. But you could see here the main words which is commonly typed by our participants are interactive, realia, tandang-tanda si realia, digital, supplementary materials, ayan. So, with Menti, you could also generate your results. So, kahit nagliliitan na yan, later on, if you want to see the answers of the participants or the audience, pwede mo siyang ma-generate. to see what have they answered.
Yeah. And
Okay?
ma'am, dagdag ko lang din, no, according to Menti community, they already try it for 20,000
Okay.
participants. So, ang dami, no?
Ang
So, ang
dami.
dami. So, magandang gamitin tong platform na to si Menti for doing it as interactive sa ating mga online class, no?
That's
So,
nice to know.
ayun po. And basically, that is from the community itself, no, ni Menti. Ayan, may
Mm.
nag-testimony doon na ginamit nila to. Ganun kadami yung volume nung or number of participants nila. Ayan, so nakikita ko nga
Okay.
rin ma'am, no, meron nag-type ng code.
May nagta-type ng code.
Opo. Ayan, so sa
So,
mga hindi
salamat.
makapasok, okay lang. You may chat the word or your face doon sa ating live chat box. Pwede rin po yun. Ayan. So
Okay.
marami pa rin tayong live participants. I think they are watching while eating, some of them. Okay lang po yun. And I think medyo malapit-lapit na rin naman matatapos na rin si ma'am. Ayan
Yes,
po.
siguro at this next part, we
Mm-mm.
will can proceed with the output that
Ayan.
they have to submit for.
Actually, ma'am, some of them are really excited to know how, where, what to submit.
Oo.
Ayan. And
Sige, we will
yun,
discuss
they
that
are also
later.
excited with the e-certificate kasi sa atin, as long
Ayan.
as you submit right after your submission, sharing your output, is you can get the e-certificate nila. So
E-certificate.
parang yun
Yes,
yung
kasi
parang pinaka gate pass nila to get the
mm.
e-certificate. Mm.
And of course, these teachers or the audience really need the certificate kasi that's one of the proof that they have really participated.
Yes.
Well,
And we,
at
ano yan.
syempre,
Yes, ma'am. Sige po.
syempre, pag pinaghirapan nila, nakinig sila at ginawa nila, syempre, talagang gusto mong makita na na-acknowledge yung ginawa mo through the certificate.
Yes. So they want to feel rewarded. Yun nga yung sabi ng iba, no? And of course, kung mapapansin nyo nga yung mga action buttons namin dun sa EduTech web applications, like submit with pride, claim with pride. So it means, di ba, parang you do
Ayan,
something, you
encourage, yan.
effort. So
Oo.
we appreciate your effort. So talaga naman, claim it with pride, di ba? Ayan.
Okay, so I think thank you po sa mga nagsisend. Like what we have mentioned, if you could not enter here in Menti, you may utilize the live chat sa pinapanood ninyo. Now, I'll be discussing what would be the output and where are you going to submit it.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead and after siguro i-demonstrate ko din sa kanila live para hindi sila ma-confuse. Opo.
Yes,
Sige,
okay.
ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, for your output, in order to get your certificate, we need your output. Siyempre, we want to check on if may na-absorb kayo or may nag-grasp kayo dito sa ating lesson. So, here is the requirement as an initial thing that you need for your certificate of participation. First is create a PowerPoint presentation with the following contents. Front page, of course, the title of your topic with your name, objectives and topics. That's for the succeeding slides. And then for the lesson proper, you just have to simplify it. You don't have to make a very long one. I'm sure meron na kayong mga PowerPoint presentations na naka-ready. You could just edit it, make it simplified. 2 to 3 slides only for the lesson proper. Okay? Add pictures, depending on the topic that you have chosen. And then for letter E, hyperlink with any supplemental resources. Kagaya ng kaninang nakita natin, you could add an audio file, MP3 file, an audiovisual file. You could use ebooks, lectures, okay? Which is related to the topic that you have chosen. So, ayun lang. And if you could see, napakadali lang ng ating gagawin as an output for this webinar. And how to submit, you upload it in Google Drive. You copy the shareable link and send to www.autech.com. Sir Ed will show you later on how are you going to submit it. And for this, I could say that everything here in this world is rapidly changing, what advantage we could get from that is to be flexible, adaptable, and resilient. And as much as possible, let's try to learn something new every day. Because through the learnings that we have, we could be able to improve ourselves, to enhance our knowledge, and most importantly, to share our knowledge with the people we are dealing with. So I think that would be for my discussion this afternoon. And I hope you were able to learn more on the topics that I have presented. So once again, I am Miss Jonna Carla Sibian from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Here is my email address, my WhatsApp number, and the QR code linking to my email address. Thank you very much once again. Sir Ed, you may explain or present the topic to our audience.
Sa ating, sorry, naka-off yung mic ko. Ayan, so before we proceed sa ating demonstration on how to submit the output, so I would like to take this opportunity no to thank you Ma'am Ma'am Jonna Bien, for sharing your insights, thoughts and techniques and of course your expertise pagdating sa online teaching din. So maraming maraming salamat no, on behalf of EduTech and syempre yung mga participants namin. Thank you din and upon checking dito sa live chat natin, Ma'am Jonna, umuulan po ng thank you. Ayan, so
Salamat po.
they learn something new sa inyong discussion and hopefully mai-adapt nila yun, no? Mai-apply nila and then later mai-submit nila sa atin just to share. So wala tong yung sa aming submission walang right and wrong na ang ginawa namin. So just to share your output. So we will appreciate that and then claim it with pride yung inyong e-certificate. So ganun na siya. Pinadali na natin, kinat na natin yung mga may masyadong mahabang process like evaluation, like So something na evaluation parang na-evaluate nyo na nga on the process yung discussion ni ma'am, no, nagchat-chat kayo, nakuha namin yung feedback niyo. Sa amin, okay na yun. Ayan, so I think medyo busy din kayo. So we appreciate those efforts. So let me share my screen and let me demonstrate sa live kung paano yung gagawin. Lalong-lalo na yung mga bago pa lang, no. Yung baga, first time lang dito kay EduTech YouTube channel. So, ang requirements ni ma'am is just to submit your PowerPoint or Google Slide. Kahit Google Slide, you can do it, di ba? Parang, actually,
Yes.
parang ano na to or parang follow-up discussion kasi we also, ma'am, created a webinar about creative animations. We deal with Google Slides, Google PowerPoint. So, another supplementary knowledge and ideas yung naibigay ni ma'am and talaga namang yung mga concepts na in reality na pwede nating mai-apply. So, magandang-maganda yon. So, let me show kung paano nyo ma-share yung output ninyo for this webinar and then kung paano nyo rin po makiklaim yung inyong e-certificate right away after submitting your output. So, sa amin, ganun na lang yung ginawa namin process. Ayan po, parang hindi natin bigyan ng another burden pa yung mga teacher na and wala nang pass and failed. So, lahat na makakakuha. Okay ba yon? So, kung okay po yon, just let me know. Just comment sa live chat. And of course, we value your feedback. Doon kami kumukuha ng mga ideas din kung paano pa i-enhance yung mga webinars. Ayan po. So, just share your ideas, thoughts, and experience sa amin. Live chat. Sa live chat, chat nyo lang po. So, let me share my screen para po mai-share ko yung step by step na gagawin. Ayan po. So, give me a sec kung ano ko lang po. Let me share my entire screen siguro. Ayan. So, here's my entire screen. Ayan. Siguro, let me check. Ayan po. Ayan. So, here's my entire screen. I think nakikita na tayo ng ating viewers. Nakikita na, no? You can confirm. Ayan po. So, ayan. So, let me share my screen. Here's my screen. Ayan po. Ayan, so nandito kami ni ma'am. Ayan, so ang una pong gagawin natin, of course, is to open up your Google Drive. Ayan po, Google Drive. So kung naka-computer ka po, so pwedeng ganito yung itsura ng Google Drive ninyo. Ayan. So kung yung mga hindi pa familiar kay Google Drive, no, I think once na meron kayong Google account, so automatic po yun. Automatic siya, meron na rin kayong Google Drive. Just go to drive.google.com, and if you can notice, here's my output for this webinar. No? Ito, for example, ito yung ginawa ko. Gumawa ko ng mga rich supplementary um, medias like audios and may mga animations, no? Sa aking PowerPoint o kaya sa Google Slide, okay lang yon. Ang importante nasa Google Drive siya because I will upload this one, just drag, or drag lang po, ganyan lang, oh. Or kung sa cellphone ka, no, just upload it to your Google Drive app. So, upload ko lang na ganyan. So, uploading na po yan. Uploading. Ayan. So, uploading. Once na na-upload po siya, so technically, this is made from Microsoft PowerPoint. So, letter P yung icon niya, no? Pero kung Google Slide yan, color yellow yon, no? Walang problema kasi we will allow you to submit your PowerPoint and your Google Slide. So, ang gagawin po, pag nakita mo na yung file, just kindly right-click yung file and click po or iselect tong get shareable link. Ano po? Kiklik lang po yan, then may lalabas na pop-up. Ito po yung importanteng steps. Kasi po, pagka naka-restricted siya, hindi namin makikita yung output nyo. So, hindi nyo siya na-share. So, ang gagawin po ninyo is kindly drop down yung restricted. Ayan po. And then select anyone with the link. Ayan. So, lahat po halos ng aming webinar, dine-demonstrate ko to. So, I think yung mga familiar na, alam na yung gagawin. So, ang lagi kong sinasabing indication na ma-share mo na ng tama yung link is the color green. Ayan, yung link po ninyo magiging color green. And there will be a button there na copy link. Click nyo lang yon. Ayan, click lang. And then now, you may go to www.eriotech.com/app. Ayan po, /app eriotech.com/app. APP stands for application. So, lalabas po yan. Ayan. So, kindly navigate sa webinars. So, some of you, I hope you're following, no po? Ayan. So, go to webinars. Ayan po, webinars. Nakiyan ko lang siguro, no? Ayan po. Go to webinars. Go to your webinars. Ayan. So, lalabas lang dyan yung aming konting ads. And then, scroll down a little bit. Dun po sa ating, ayan, ito po. Ito po yung ating pagsasubmitan. Ano po? Ayan. So, i-click nyo lang po yung ating output submission. Ayan. For those na naliligaw saan babalikan yung replay, so nandito lang din po, i-click nyo lang din po yung watch here para bumalik dun sa YouTube. Ano po? May link din siya. So far, wala siyang due date. Ayan po. So, you may share your output, your ideas anytime. Wag lang next year. Ano po, no? Ayan po.
Masyadong matagal yata yun, sir.
Opo. So, sa amin naman, medyo maluwag naman tayo. So, we consider anytime as long as wag naman next year, no po? So, sana nga tapos na yung pandemic next year, no po? So, click lang natin yung output submission button. Ayan. So, may lalabas lang na pop-up. You may close this one or this one is optional or not mandatory, voluntary siya. So, you may click the button if you would like to share something. Okay, if hindi gaanong blessing is click lang tong X button. So, ang gagawin po, for example, ako lalagay ko yung email. Kunyari, yung Eriotech email, no? So, re-retype ko lang yung aking email. Ayan. And then, put your full name. Kung ano yung name na gusto nyo lumabas sa certificate. Ayan po. Kunyari, ako, ganito yung gagawin ko, no? So, since na na-copy ko na yung link from here, from my Google Drive, copy this one, then put it here, go to your tab sa EryoTech app. Then right-click paste. Ayan po. And then kindly hit the submit with pride. Ayan, yung action button natin dyan, no? Submit with pride. Ibig sabihin, pinaghirapan nyo yan. We appreciate that. Then click it. Then by that, so make sure na may lalabas na parang congratulatory message na your output has been submitted. And do not forget, meron dyang link sa baba. Yung link dyan nakalagay, claim here with pride. Ayan. So, claim here with pride. Ito po. I-click nyo lang yung claim here with pride, then automatically your e-certificate will pop up or will show. And then, paano ba siya masasave, sir? So, basically, image type kasi siya ngayon so far, but in the future, we will enhance it na PDF na. Pero for now, kindly right-click, then select yung save image as, and then save it anywhere, kung saan nyo gusto, sa desktop. Ayan. So, click nyo lang yan, mada-download, and automatic, meron na kayo ng image ng inyong e-certificate. You may place it in any word processing like Google Docs or Microsoft Word para ma-print siya. Ano po? So, pwede nyo siya ma-manipulate pa or resize. It's up to you na po kung ano yung size na gusto niyo i-print. So, ganun po kadali. So, automatic. After sharing your output, that's all. Ayan po. No evaluation, no registration required. Just share your output. Yan lang po yan. Ayan. Ma'am Jonah, ayan po. Any
Yes, sir.
last word po for them before we
Okay.
end this
So,
live stream?
once again, I would like to thank EryoTech, especially Sir Ed, for the opportunity for having me here as one of the webinar speakers. And also, I hope what I have imparted for today had become useful to you. And I hope you'll be utilizing it when you have your online discussions. May nakita ako kanina dito sa comment, nag-ano kasi ako, nag-browse ako a while ago.
Ay, by the
May
way, ma'am,
nagsabi,
sorry. Sorry, ma'am,
Mhm.
by the way. Can we address pala some questions pala? Forgot.
Okay, yes.
Apo.
Pwede, sige.
Apo, sige.
Sige,
Let
sir.
me ask, dito may mga questions kanina. I think, doon sa mga siguro ako nasagot nitong isang to, ma'am, sorry. Yung sa mga nagtatanong about sa slide, so I think you may replay this video na lang po. Ayan. So, lahat naman na i-show ni ma'am. And you may, ang challenge dito is create your own, di ba? So,
Yes.
yung lahat ng info you may grab by watching and then create your own na rin, no? Malay mo, when recreating the slide, then you may submit it to us. Okay lang din naman yon. Ayan po. So, I think ma'am lahat kasi dito more on thank you tsaka commending you about the clear instructions.
Thank you.
Opo. So,
Salamat po.
kung may mga tanong, I think walang gaanong tanong ma'am about sa certificate pala, no? Kanina siguro, sorry, no, hindi ko rin napansin kasi. So, ayun, I think nasagot mo lahat ma'am kasi along the way na sagot mo yung mga questions nila. Kanina kasi may mga tanong. Ayan. Siguro ma'am, last word na. Sorry for your
Okay.
interruption. Ayan po.
So again, to all the participants, I really appreciate our good interaction. This could be felt when participants, together with the speakers, could give a great interactive communication, even though we are challenged by the distance. Okay? So I think for those who are asking, kailangan ba followed yung format na ginawa ko in my entire presentation? Ang susundin nyo lang is what I have written as part of the output. Andun lang yung title or yung topic ninyo, yung objectives ninyo, yung topics, specific topics, at saka yung 2 to 3 slides ng inyong discussion. The rest, it's all up to you. You don't have to follow the slide transitions, the designs that I have utilized. Hindi nyo kailangan din maglagay ng sobrang daming pictures, sobrang daming animations. No, it's your technique. Okay? So you are free to do those. Maybe you could be creating something more interesting than what we have earlier. So training ground, practice nyo na rin. And I would just like to say thank you once again to all our viewers. Continue supporting EryoTech and continue learning with them at the same time. And also, whatever challenge we are facing right now, stay safe, have faith, keep praying, and everything will be fine sooner or later. So, thank you very much once again. Maraming salamat po, and I hope to see you once again next time. Thank you so much.
Ayan, so ako rin ma'am, nagte-thank you din ako sa mga participants natin 'no, kahit na medyo lunch break na, nandito pa rin talaga sila, nakaabang. Ayan, so ulitin ko lang 'no, you may submit your output sa web application natin or even sa mobile app. We have also mobile app, yung QR code flash sa ating screen ngayon, you may scan this kung di kayo sanay mag-type-type, so scan nyo lang siya or just download or simply download it sa ating Google Play Store. So far, wala kaming iOS version, pero to address that concern, you may submit your output through the URL www.eriotech.com/app or app. Ayan. So, para dun sa mga naka-iOS. So, yung app na yon, yung web application, any platform na yan, mapa Windows ka, basta may browser, you may submit it. Ayan po, ganun na lang po. And to remind all of us, ayan po, so bigay ko lang din yung laging famous word ni John Dewey, no? Learning by doing. Ayan po. So, the event code for this webinar is ODL101. Ayan po. And then, nandyan din yung ating URL. Ano po? Ayan. So, once again, maraming salamat. And hopefully, makasama pa namin kayo tomorrow. Ayan po, tomorrow we have, let me browse. We have the, interactive virtual classroom using Edmodo. So, I think napadaanan ni Ma'am Jonah kanina about Edmodo. We will deal tomorrow about Edmodo. And ang kagandahan nito, Ma'am Jonah, tomorrow we will have a subject matter expert which is certified trainer ni Edmodo. Talagang galing kay Edmodo or trained ni Edmodo to. So, napakaganda yung mga workaround about Edmodo, maituturo niya sa atin. So, we will explore more kung ano yung mga functionalities, features, kung ano yung mga mai-share ni Ma'am na technique. So, kabang-abang to tomorrow. So, same time tayo, 9. Yun nga lang, medyo maaga yon, 9 a.m. yon hanggang 12. Ayan po. So, napakaganda. So, hopefully, maka-attend kayo and ma-share nyo yung mga videos namin sa inyong mga timeline para those mga interested no, na nag-worry. Kasi yung iba talagang hanggang ngayon worry pa kung paano nila execute yung kanilang virtual classroom, online classes, so nahihirapan pa, no? So, this way, sana hindi ganun ka parang formal yung mga discussions natin, may mga halong interactive way. Sana may nagugustuhan ninyo and let us know, just kindly suggest sa live chat para alam po namin yung mga susunod pa namin na i-enhance sa aming webinar. So maraming salamat po no on behalf of our team, Eriotech. So we would like to express our gratitude kay Ma'am Jonah Carla Bien for sharing yung kanyang insights and expertise. Tsaka kayo din yung mga feedback ninyo. Maraming salamat. Ano po? So by this, dito na po kami magtatapos. Kung may mga concern kayo, you may reach us sa aming Facebook page. Chat nyo lang kami doon. We will try to address all of your questions, no? We will try our best talaga. Alam nyo naman, medyo busy na din ngayon. Ano po? So, hopefully, magkita-kita ulit tayo tomorrow and napaka-abang-abang yung Edmodo and at the same time, plug ko na din, no? Meron kaming partnership with ViewSonic Philippines. So, napakaganda nun. Mas meron pa kami mga i-introduce sa inyo na interactive platforms kung paano ninyo execute yung sa inyong mga online classes. So, kaabang-abang yon. So, sana subscribe kayo dito para lagi kayo merong notifications, no? Yung red button dyan, tsaka yung bell, pakiclick na din para updated kayo lagi. Kasi lagi kong iiwan, parang sa ngayon, sa panahon natin ngayon, kasalanan na po natin kapag hindi tayo updated. So, as a teacher, dapat po ay lagi tayong updated. So, be informed, be educated, be aware din. Ayan, sa mga nangyayari. Ano po? So, maraming salamat po. By the way, this is Sir Ed and signing off. Ma'am Jonah,
Thank you.
last message and thank you po. Bye-bye. For now.
Bye-bye.
Apo, bye-bye.